Chapter 1027, That's It. Sinclairman was helplessly roaring in anger in his heart. After knowing that Wang Teng possessed space talent, he stopped chasing him. Everything was in vain. He couldn't release his heaven stage power now. Even if he could, he wouldn't be able to capture Wang Ting, who had the space talent. The space talent was extremely mysterious. A heaven stage martial warrior might have some understanding of space, but they were still different from martial warriors who had its innate talent. They couldn't use space power casually like them. For instance, if they were to travel through space, he would only be able to cover 5 meters while Wang Ting could do 10 meters. Even a powerful heaven stage martial warrior could at most travel for 7 to 8 meters. That was the gap. Wang Ting had picked more many attribute bubbles, so his grasp of space had gotten stronger. He had surpassed many others. Hence, Sinclairman decided to give up attacking. The important thing now was to get the legacy. He didn't believe that as a heaven stage martial warrior, he would lose to Wang Ting in this aspect. Both of them arrived at the door of the castle. It was 10 meters tall and 6 meters wide, its size in proportion with the overall height of the castle. It was grandiose. Move. Sinclairman didn't want Wang Ting to take the lead. He pushed him away and overtook him, placing his hands on the door and pushing it forcefully. Crack. An ear-piercing friction sound irritated their eardrums. The door trembled slightly. Dust and bits of stone fragments fell. A small crack appeared between the doors, but it was pitch black inside. Nothing could be seen. Sinclairman was elated. Just as he was about to open the door entirely, the crimson-red patterns on the castle started shimmering. The door had the most number of patterns. They lit up at the same time. Sinclairman's expression underwent a huge change. He retracted his hands as if he got electrocuted and flew back. Boom. The gap between the doors closed and the crimson patterns dimmed, returning to their original color. Sinclairman stood 30 meters away from the door. His face was full of astonishment and his gaze was filled with fear. His hands were trembling. Wang Ting turned around, stunned. He stood 5 meters away from the door while Sinclairman retreated to 30 meters away. It was as if there was a terrifying monster inside the castle. That's it. Wang Ting asked uncontrollably. Silence. Sinclairman's expression froze. Then, his entire face turned red. He was looked down upon. He was being looked down upon again. He looked at the distance between Wang Ting and the door and then he looked at himself. He wished he could bury himself. Was he more timid than a planetary stage martial warrior? This was impossible. He recalled the frightening aura he felt when he opened the door. He could still feel the lingering fear. This wasn't an issue about courage. He felt the threat of death just now. Also, he raised his hand and took a look. His pupils constricted. His skin and flesh were gone, revealing the white and scary bones below. There were burnt marks on the bones too, as if they were unable to resist the high heat. If he didn't react fast enough, he would have lost his hands. Currently, he would be able to heal them using some high-level healing medicine. No blood flowed out of his hands because the flesh around them was burnt completely. A barbecued smell floated in the air. Wang Ting noticed Sinclairman's palms and frowned. Is that caused by the crimson patterns? That's scary. He was dumbfounded, not daring to underestimate the power of the door anymore. Wang Ting, aren't you a capable person? Why don't you try opening the door? Sinclairman took a deep breath and placed his hands behind him. Do you think I'm stupid? Your hands are burnt. I'm not blind. Wang Ting sniggered. Sinclairman felt the corners of his eyes twitching. He was furious. Every single sentence Wang Ting said seemed to be targeting him. His blood pressure rose continuously. He was about to explode in anger. But I'm not as timid as you. I won't run so far away if I get burnt. Wang Ting mocked him and walked towards the door. Sinclairman wanted to refute, but he decided to shut up after he saw Wang Ting's actions. His gaze flickered, and a sneer appeared at the edge of his lips. Wang Ting stood in front of the door, but he didn't raise his hands. Instead, he observed the crimson patterns. The crimson patterns seemed to be some special flame runes. When one opened the door, the runes would be activated and give off an extremely high temperature that even a Heaven Stage martial warrior wouldn't be able to resist. Cyclamen was the best example. No wonder the others who entered the Flaming River world weren't able to get the last legacy. Who could pass this test? Wang Ting was in deep thought. His pupils went back and forth quickly. Wang Ting, try it yourself. What's the use of staring at it? Cyclamen wanted to incite Wang Ting to act, so he mocked him. Is that any of your business? Wang Ting replied calmly. He didn't care that this person was a Heaven Stage martial warrior. Since they were already at loggerheads, he didn't have to act anymore. Timid fellow. You only know how to hide behind others. Do you think you can get the legacy when you don't even have the guts to try? You must be daydreaming. Cyclamen snorted with a grim expression. Wang Ting wanted to say something, but a thought suddenly entered his mind. Smirking, his pupils twirled in his eyeballs. He said, "Who says I don't dare to do it? Pushing the door is easy. You're afraid, but I'm not. I don't have to listen to you anyway. Why should I push just because you ask me to? You can choose whether you want to push or not. If you're not doing it, move." Cyclamen said contemptuously. This place doesn't belong to you. What can you do to me if I don't move? Wang Ting stuck out his tongue. What the? Cyclamen almost flew off the handle. Do you dare to make a bet with me? If I push the door, you'll call me father. Wang Ting took the chance and asked. Cyclamen's face turned green. This bastard wanted him to call him father. He must have a death wish. He felt humiliated. He was getting drowned in anger. You don't dare. Wang Ting said, forget it, it's normal for a coward like you. All right, I'll take the bet. Cyclamen suddenly gave a sinister smile. However, you have to at least push it to where I pushed it just now. What do you think? Sure. Wang Ting nodded without any hesitation. Cyclamen was stunned. He didn't think that Wang Ting would agree so easily. He was confused and wondered where he got his confidence from. Move away. Don't disturb me when I open the door. Wang Ting waved his hands as if he was chasing some flies away. Veins popped up on Cyclamen's forehead. He was infuriated. He did the same action to Wang Ting in the past, but now, Wang Ting was the one doing it to him. Times had changed. Chapter 1028, Legacy Crystal. Cyclamen was furious. However, he still retreated and gave room to Wang Ting. Stand further away. Don't try a sneak attack, Wang Ting said. Don't be angry, don't be angry. Cyclamen took a few deep breaths and warned himself not to lose his cool. It wouldn't be worth getting angry over this brat. Then, he stepped back with a sneer. He wanted to see how Wang Ting's hands would get crippled by the door. His Heaven Stage body couldn't withstand it, so Wang Ting's Planetary Stage body wouldn't be able to either. Wang Ting stretched out his hand after he saw Cyclamen moving back. He pressed his hands against the door and exerted force gradually. Creak tilde the shrill sound was heard again. A gap slowly appeared between the doors. At the same time, the crimson patterns on the castle lit up. Here it comes. Cyclamen got excited. His gaze was filled with contempt. This brat will die if he doesn't retreat in time. Does he think the door can be opened so easily? How naive. Wang Ting's expression changed. The soul of Thousand Beasts flame wrapped around his hand in an attempt to resist the crimson patterns. Is he using the divine flame to resist? Cyclamen squinted. He understood Wang Ting's intention. Creak. Wang Ting didn't let go. He exerted more force, and the gap got bigger and bigger. Hes opening it. Cyclamen's expression turned gloomy. Was he going to call him father? F***K, really? Cyclamen didn't realize that while the soul of Thousand Beasts flame was resisting the crimson patterns, it started flowing along the patterns and spread across the door. Their colors were the same and Wang Ting only released a wisp of the flame into the crimson pattern. It was almost impossible to detect. Well, if he opens the door, I can take the chance to enter. An evil glint flashed past his eyes when Cyclamen thought about this. Crack. The gap grew bigger. At this moment, Wang Ting suddenly stopped pushing. He tilted his body and shot into the castle at the speed of lightning. Cinclamon's expression changed entirely when he saw this scene. He rushed forward quickly. Soon, he realized something awkward. The gap was too small. Wang Ting could pass through the gap with his small frame, but how was he supposed to enter with all his muscles? How? He didn't expect Wang Ting to dash in after opening such a small crack. The scene played out differently than how he had imagined. Ha ha ha, my dear son, your father will be going in first. Wang Ting's laughter resounded from behind the door. Cinclamon's face turned green. He gritted his teeth and wanted to squeeze through. At this moment, Wang Ting retrieved his soul of Thousand Beasts flame, and the door shut with a loud bang. Cinclamon's nose smashed against the door. He almost broke his nose bridge. Ah! The series of stimulation almost caused this heaven-stage martial warrior to go crazy. He screamed in anger. Wang Ting couldn't hear Cinclamon's roars behind the door, but he could imagine his furious expression. He was able to enter the castle all thanks to the soul of Thousand Beasts flame. When he was teasing Cinclamon, the soul of Thousand Beasts flame sent him a message. The door of the castle could only be opened with it. This obstacle was created by the owner of Flaming River World. If anyone wanted to enter the hiding spot of the last legacy, he needed to get the soul of Thousand Beasts flame he left behind first. If not, all would be in vain. No one found the soul of Thousand Beasts flame after all these years, so naturally, the castle remained undiscovered. Wang Ting had the soul of Thousand Beasts flame. He could have relied on it to open the door completely and easily without much effort. But if he did that, Cinclamon would follow him in. Thus, he put on an act. Everything went as planned. It was very smooth. That bulky and brainless hunk must be thinking too much if he wanted to take advantage of him. After he entered the great hall, balls of flames lit up the walls, lighting up the interior of the castle. These flames were special. They were floating in mid-air. If they were red in color, people might think that they were ghost fires. Wang Ting looked ahead and saw a long corridor. He activated the Eyes of Essence and walked forward when he didn't detect any hidden traps. He passed through the corridor and arrived at the main lobby of the castle. It was spacious and round. Although extravagant, it was simple and unsophisticated. The flames around it lit the lobby up brightly. After entering, Wang Ting could see the lobby clearly. His gaze shimmered. There was a white ball of light floating in the lobby. Other than that, there was nothing else. Is that the legacy? Wang Ting touched his chin and wondered. To be safe, he used his Eyes of Essence to look at it and confirmed that there weren't any problems. The ball of white light was a dead object. It wasn't a threat. This is the legacy crystal. Round Ball's astonished voice appeared in Wang Ting's mind. It hadn't spoken much ever since it came to the Flaming River world. This time, however, it couldn't control itself. Legacy crystal? This is a legacy item created by the lifetime experience and knowledge of a formidable warrior. It's similar to the legacy palace left behind by Master Nangong. Round Ball was envious. It exclaimed, "You're so lucky. This must be the legacy of the owner of Flaming River World. This belongs to a universe-stage martial warrior. Many people will go crazy over it. I'm not lucky. I have the capability." Wang Ting chuckled. Round Ball rolled its eyes. But it had to admit that Wang Ting didn't rely solely on his luck to reach this far. Many times, he relied on his ability. "How do I use this legacy crystal?" Wang Ting asked. "Use your spiritual power to pull it into your consciousness," Round Ball said. Wang Ting nodded. He released his spiritual power and enveloped the ball of white light with it. Then, he pulled it over. Boom! The ball of white light exploded after reaching his consciousness, turning into numerous memory fragments. Scriptures, battle techniques, secret skills, and other memories floated in his mind. F***K, Round Ball, you tricked me. Wang Ting was appalled. He sat down cross-legged and started digesting the vast amounts of information. I didn't know you would act so quickly." Round Ball came out from the life energy stone and glanced at Wang Ting with guilt. Suddenly, it saw a space ring from the corner of its eyes. It was floating at the spot where the ball of white light was. It gasped and muttered to itself, "Oh my God, his luck is heaven-defying." Chapter 1029, Emergency. The legacy left behind by the owner of Flaming River World was too huge. He was just a celestial stage martial warrior. Even a heaven stage martial warrior would require a long time to absorb it. Wang Teng should have obtained the legacy crystal and absorbed it slowly. However, Round Ball was making things difficult for him. It didn't say it clearly and caused him to absorb the legacy crystal directly into his consciousness, which then caused it to burst and turn into countless memory fragments in his mind. Wang Teng had to absorb them quickly now. If he took too long, the memory fragments that were not absorbed in time would disappear. After all, these memory fragments had no owner and would not exist for long. Fortunately, Wang Teng's spirit was strong and could withstand this huge torrent of memory fragments and absorb them quickly. Even so, it would still take a lot of time. Time passed gradually. Outside Flaming River World, the head of the council and the others were passing time comfortably as the Qi family hosted them. These people represented the different factions of the empire and had high statuses. They would be treated with respect wherever they went. The Qi family was already on a decline. They didn't dare to offend the powerful families and figures from the Great Chen planet. 13 days went by in a flash. As time passed, the Qi family monitored Flaming River World more closely. Qi Tiancheng had a Flaming River mirror. It could allow him to see what was going on in Flaming River World. They could only see what was happening on the surface though. Otherwise, Flaming River World would have no secrets and would be scoured by them. But this was enough. They were only monitoring the degree of Flaming River World's collapse. The head of the council and the others gathered again under the fire tung tree. Qi Tiancheng tossed the mirror into the air and turned it into a round screen, showing the situation in Flaming River World. He then said calmly, "About 80% of Flaming River World has collapsed. It is faster than what we had expected. Originally, they estimated the destruction to take 15 days or longer. There was even a buffer, and there was plenty of time. Now, 80% of Flaming River World had already collapsed on the 13th day. It was a bit too fast. I wonder what happened. Why did the collapse quicken?" the head asked. "A few days ago, the Flaming River suddenly dried up. However, I do not know why." Qi Tiancheng was also puzzled. It was impossible for him to keep an eye on Flaming River World all the time, and the mirror had its limitations too. It could only monitor small areas. The person using it had to adjust it to get the right location. After all, the mirror was owned by Flaming River World's creator. If it was in his hands, he could control it with a thought. Qi Tiancheng was unable to replicate his actions. A universe stage martial warrior's small world was full of wonders. Even a heaven stage martial warrior wouldn't be able to easily spy on it. That was why Qi Tiancheng didn't know that Wang Ting had obtained the soul of Thousand Beasts' flame, which caused the Flaming River to dry up and bring forward the collapse of the small world. Forget it. A small world is unpredictable. Flaming River World has existed for so long. It's time for it to retire. There was a hint of sadness in the council head's eyes. After all, he was also a universe stage martial warrior. The owner of Flaming River World had fallen for countless years, and now, even the small world that he had left behind had been scoured clean by the later generations, to the point that it was about to collapse. It was heartbreaking. How much time is left? Valteru from the Parkers family frowned and asked. Based on the speed of collapse, there are at most 5 hours before Flaming River World will cease to exist, Qi Tiancheng calculated and said. Council head, do we tell them to return immediately? Valteru turned and asked. Send them the message. The head of the council nodded and instructed Qi Tiancheng. Qi Tiancheng had no objections and took out the token. With a thought, he connected it to Wang Teng and Cao Hongtu's tokens. In Flaming River World, Cao Hongtu and the others were waiting anxiously outside the volcano. They had to be anxious. Flaming River World was collapsing, and the destruction was slowly creeping towards the center. The surroundings had already plunged into the abyss. Swamps, plains, grasslands. Everything in Flaming River World disintegrated and vanished into the dark abyss. Roar! Roar! Not only that, but the star beasts were swarming from all directions. They fell into complete chaos in the face of death. It was a horrifying scene. Countless star beasts roared in despair. They simply couldn't keep up with the speed of the rifts and were torn apart. Blood spewed around and their limbs disappeared into the dimensional rifts. There were a few lucky ones that managed to escape and were rushing towards the volcano as if it was their safe haven. Cao Hongtu and the others were horrified by this scene. The Star Beast riot was not as frightening as the space collapsing. Despite being a Heaven Stage martial warrior, he couldn't stop it. Damn it, why are they not out yet? Cao Hongtu's face was gloomy as he stared at the pillar of fire in front of him. And Lan stood in the sky with hands behind his back, as if he was admiring the scenery of space collapsing. He was extremely calm. And Feng and the others were used to it. They stood quietly behind him without uttering a word. No, I have to notify Sinclaman. Cao Hongtu used his watch and sent Sinclaman a message. Underneath the pillar of flame and outside the castle, Sinclaman immediately received the message. His expression changed. Flaming River World has almost collapsed. Why is it so fast? He was hesitant. He looked at the castle in front of him, and a strong sense of unwillingness emerged in his heart. The reason why he was unwilling to leave was that he was waiting for Wang Ting. Once he came out of the castle, he would be able to rob him. Although Wang Ting possessed space talent, he had a high chance to succeed if he struck when Wang Ting opened the door. Of course, there was only one chance. There was no other opportunity if he missed. However, Flaming River World was about to collapse and Wang Ting was still not coming out. Cao Hongtu's desperate urging made him nervous. Let's wait. Let's wait. I don't believe he won't come out. Sinclaman gritted his teeth with a grim expression. His eyes were fixed on the door and he didn't want to move away for one single moment. Time passed again. 1 hour, 2 hours, 3 hours. Sinclaman had already received a dozen messages from Cao Hongtu. The collapse had already reached the group of volcanoes, and the situation was dire. Sinclaman ignored it and waited outside for another hour until the destruction reached the central volcano that they were at. Ah! He finally let out an unwilling roar. His eyes were bloodshot as he took one last glance at the firmly shut door before turning away. Chapter 1030. Our boss can't pretend anymore _her. Was that Sinclaman shouting? Right after Sinclaman left, the door of the castle opened a tiny gap and Wang Ting shot out. He scratched his head as he muttered to himself. He was very careful. When he came out, he used a space skill to prevent Sinclaman from sneaking an attack on him. But he soon realized that he was thinking too much. Sinclaman had left. Wang Ting, let's go. The collapse has reached this place, Round Ball said. It saw the message Lan had sent to Wang Ting. What are you afraid of? The space is just collapsing. We won't die, Wang Ting replied calmly. Round Ball was shocked by Wang Ting's boasting. It turned silent for a moment before it said grimly, don't joke around. The collapse of this small world is more dangerous than the dimensional rifts in the normal world. A single mistake and you will be sucked in. It's almost impossible to escape if you do. You might possess space talent, but you can't underestimate its destructive power. Oh, is it that frightening? Wang Ting was stunned. Let's talk after you go out. You can see it for yourself outside, Round Ball said anxiously. Wang Ting smiled. He didn't agree with Round Ball, but he didn't refute it either. Tapping the ground, he jumped into the pillar of fire above him. Sinclaman darted out of the fire pillar above the volcano. The instant he saw the collapsing space outside, he squinted. He was astounded by the image. The power of space had formed a tornado in the emptiness. Everything in its path was churned into dust. It was exceptionally terrifying. At first, he was furious with Cao Hongtu, but when he saw this scene, all his anger disappeared. He was filled with gratitude. He felt fortunate that he came out early. If not, he might have perished here. You're finally out. Cao Hongtu heaved a sigh of relief when he saw Sinclaman. He almost panicked. Yes. Sinclaman nodded. Did you get it? Cao Hongtu asked. Cyclamen shook his head with a somber expression. What about Wang Teng? Cao Hongtu asked again. His expression changed slightly. He entered the legacy ground and is still inside. Cyclamen's face turned black when he mentioned Wang Ting. He couldn't control the anger burning in his heart. What? He entered the legacy ground? Cao Hongtu exclaimed in shock. They didn't use voice transmission to communicate, so Lan heard Cao Hongtu's words. He blinked and appeared surprised. I didn't think he could enter the place. Whether he can get the legacy is another thing. He hasn't come out, so he might have died along with the legacy. Cyclamen snorted. He was in a bad mood. Cao Hongtu wasn't convinced though. He wanted to say that this was just one possibility. The other was that Wang Teng would come out safely with the legacy. Crack. At this moment, they heard a crisp sound coming from the space around them. Something seemed to be cracking. Everyone's expression changed. They raised their heads and saw tiny pitch-black cracks appearing in the air above them and spreading out like spiderwebs. They filled up the air, looking ghastly. Damn it, the space is collapsing around us. We need to leave quickly, Cyclamen shouted in fear. But my daughter is still in Wang Ting's hands. Cao Hongtu hesitated at the crucial moment. Cyclamen almost raged. Who was the one urging him some time ago? Now that he was out, Cao Hongtu started to worry about his daughter and didn't want to leave. Was he disregarding him? Once the space collapses, you won't be able to leave even with the token. Think about it carefully. Cyclamen sneered. Cao Hongtu was in a dilemma. Wang Teng has the token. If he comes out, he'll bring your daughter along. If he doesn't, your daughter has no chance either. It's useless to wait here, Cyclamen continued. All right, let's go. Cao Hongtu finally made his decision. He took out his token immediately and activated it. A ray of light shot out from the token, and a glowing door appeared in the sky. It seemed a little fragile with all the space tumbling around it. Go. Cao Hongtu almost got a shock when he saw this scene. He shouted in a hurry. Cyclamen and the others were appalled too. They charged towards the door without any hesitation. Swoosh, swoosh, swoosh. They entered the glowing door at the speed of light. Cao Wu was a little hesitant, but he could only sigh in the face of this life-or-death situation. Then, he disappeared through the door. Lan and the others saw the glowing door distorting before it disappeared. They started to get worried. What should we do? There isn't enough time and Wang Teng still isn't out, a mecha martial warrior finally asked. He couldn't control his composure anymore. It's useless to worry. The token is with Wang Teng. We can only wait for him to come out, Lan replied helplessly. At this moment, a peal of faint laughter was heard from the pillar of fire behind them. Lan and the others turned around in surprise. They saw a figure leaping out from the pillar of fire with another person in his hand. They were Wang Teng and Cao Jiaojiao. Wang Ting purposely took Cao Jiaojiao out of his space fragment and hid in the pillar of fire to watch this good show. Cao Jiaojiao felt numb, her gaze gloomy. She seemed to have suffered a huge blow and was having a breakdown. Cao Hongtu did the right thing, but as the person involved, she felt abandoned. You're finally willing to come out. Lan was overjoyed. He rushed over and shouted, quick, let's go. It'll be too late if we wait any longer. The other three mechas. Our boss can't pretend anymore. Indeed, this is his true face. Wang Teng saw Lan putting on an act just now, so when he saw his scared expression, his gaze turned strange. Don't be impatient, we're not done yet. Wang Teng glanced at the collapsing space around them. He could see countless attribute bubbles ripe for picking. There were so many of them with no end. This small world was able to drop these many attribute bubbles. It was unbelievable. Nothing is more important than our lives. The space is collapsing. If we don't leave, we'll die. I can't resist the terrifying power of space. Don't rely on me, Lan said agitatedly. Don't worry. I have my own way. Wang Teng ignored him and started picking up the attribute bubbles happily. His spiritual power turned into numerous thin strings with a hint of space power in them. They started to spread out and stick to the attribute bubbles, pulling them in. Chapter 1031. Work harder and you'll be able to kill a high-level Cosmos stage martial warrior. Space *20 space *50 space fragment *100 space *30 space *80 space fragment *60 constellation force, fire, *1200 constellation force, fire, *2000 blank attribute *5000 space fragment *150 numerous attribute bubbles swarmed toward Wang Teng and merged with his body. He was elated. There were so many of them. It was impossible to count them. He never expected the collapse of this small world to give him so many goodies. Besides space attributes, there were constellation fire force and blank attributes. The star beasts in Flaming River World were annihilated by the space power, but the attribute bubbles they dropped hadn't disappeared completely. Wang Teng got the most benefits. Numerous constellation fire force attributes flowed into Wang Teng's body. They turned into his cultivation and pushed his stage forward gradually. He had already reached the 3rd level of the celestial stage, but his cultivation was skyrocketing now. 4th level celestial stage, 5th level celestial stage, 6th level celestial stage. Not only that, the space attributes turned into space power in his body and roamed around. It was a mystical power that was slightly gray and muddy in color. As it merged into Wang Teng's body, it formed a cocoon of light around him, enveloping him inside. This situation had never happened before, but it did now. It was because Wang Teng had absorbed too much space power. Lan was beside him and noticed Wang Teng's change immediately. This is the power of space. Lan was bewildered. Astonishment filled up his heart. He was also a little confused. What's going on? What just happened? He wanted to persuade Wang Teng to hurry, but this happened. What thick space power! How is he so lucky? Lan didn't know how to describe his emotions. He could only gasp in shock. There was thick space power gathered around Wang Teng. He must possess the space talent. Space talent was extremely rare. Anyone with this talent was the cream of the crop. Also, Wang Teng gained this enlightenment after looking at the collapsing world. His comprehension ability was incredibly high. Wang Teng's image rose tremendously in his heart. Even as a heaven stage martial warrior, he was awestruck. No wonder he's so confident. With space talent, he will be able to keep us safe even if the small world collapses, Lan muttered to himself. Boss, Mr. Wang Teng is extraordinary, the other 3 mechas gasped in astonishment. Very extraordinary, Lan exclaimed. He knew Wang Teng's real identity. He was a triple field grandmaster. This was scary enough. Additionally, he had high martial arts and rare space talent. Was he even a human? Round Ball, who was in the life energy stone, was so dumbstruck that it lost its voice for a long time. It thought that Wang Teng's space talent was powerful, but from the looks of it, it had underestimated him. The space power had turned into a cocoon of light around him. This was appalling. This meant that the space collapse wouldn't affect him. Wang Teng didn't know what the others were thinking. He was immersed in his own transformation. More and more space power surged into his body, changing his cells such that they got more and more connected to space. At the same time, the space fragment in his mind expanded. It grew from 10,000 to 20,000 square meters and was still going strong. Cao Jiaojiao was thrown back into the space fragment. She forgot where she was and stared at the vibrating ground in astonishment. Then, the ground started expanding into the distance without stopping. What's going on? Cao Jiaojiao swallowed her saliva absent-mindedly. She started to find Wang Teng even more mysterious, feeling that she couldn't understand him anymore. He was shrouded in a ball of mist. The Cao family shouldn't have made him their enemy. Cao Jiaojiao gave a bitter smile. Time passed. The space around them had collapsed and swallowed the volcano in the center. Lan stared at the disintegrating volcano below him. He was astounded. Fear welled up in his heart. Suddenly, faint space fluctuations started spreading out from the light cocoon around Wang Teng. They created an invisible shield around everyone. The berserk space power around them gradually calmed down. They were protected from all the harm. And Lan and the others felt their fear disappearing. They let out a long sigh and glanced at one another. They could still feel the lingering creeps. Nonetheless, they finally believed that Wang Ting had the ability to protect them. Hence, they sat down cross-legged around Wang Ting and protected the light cocoon in the center. And Lan didn't treat Wang Ting as his employer anymore. This time, he honestly wanted to befriend him. Befriend him as a heaven stage martial warrior. Wang Ting was worth it. After a seemingly long time, the cocoon of light started to dim. Wang Ting's figure slowly appeared in everyone's eyes. He's awake. And Lan and the others looked at him happily. Wang Ting opened his eyes. A queer rune flashed in them. This was a display of space power. The edge of his lips lifted up uncontrollably. Huge gain. This was a huge gain. If he were to say his greatest gain this time, Wang Ting felt that it wasn't the soul of Thousand Beasts Flame or the legacy of Flaming River World. Instead, it was the rise in his space talent and the expansion of his space fragment. Of course, the soul of Thousand Beasts Flame and the legacy were amazing, but in comparison, the last two items were more important. Space Physique, 152503000000, 3rd rank, Space Fragment, 10560010000000. Wang Ting's space physique rose by 2 ranks, jumping from the 1st to the 3rd rank. This was a huge leap. Space physique had different ranks too. 3rd rank space physique allowed Wang Ting to control space power easily. He had the same level of understanding and grasp as a universe stage martial warrior. If Wang Ting learned more commonly used space battle techniques, he could resist a Cosmos stage martial warrior with his current strength and even kill him. The only space battle technique he had was the space tornado. However, it required a lot of energy and force. If he executed it, it could be a threat to heaven stage martial warriors. At the same time, his body would bear huge pressure. He would easily be at a disadvantage, so Wang Ting wouldn't use this skill unless necessary. You could say that the rise in space talent finally allowed him to have the ability to stand firm in the universe. Cao Hongtu wouldn't be able to harm him easily if he went out now. Wang Ting had the confidence to fight them face to face. As for the size of the space fragment, it had increased to more than 105,000 square meters. This was many times bigger than before. Although it was nothing compared to Flaming River World, it was big enough for him. He could store many things inside, including a universe spacecraft. Also, Wang Ting's Constellation Fire Force had reached the 7th level celestial stage. Constellation Fire Force, 3,570,000, celestial stage 7th level. Before he entered Flaming River World, his Constellation Fire Force was at the 9th level planetary stage. Now, it had reached the 7th level celestial stage. This increase was unimaginable. No one would believe him if he told them. Cao Hongtu thought that he was still a planetary stage martial warrior. He didn't know his incredible gains. Wang Ting had surpassed all their expectations. 7th level celestial stage ability with space talent was enough to kill a 5th level Cosmos stage martial warrior easily. If he worked harder, he could kill a high-level Cosmos stage martial warrior too. As for the blank attributes. Blank attribute, 886,500. Wang Ting's eyes lit up. He had more than 880,000 blank attributes. The blank attributes came at the right time since he needed to learn some space techniques. He calmed himself down before turning to look at Lan. Let's go. We should leave now. They must be panicking. Ha ha ha, Cao Hongtu probably thinks you're dead. And Lan gloated as he laughed. Chapter 1032, Yul ran really fast under the Fire Tung tree. Amid a flash of light, a few figures stepped out of the tree hole. They are out. Qi Tiancheng said hurriedly. He was elated. He knew that the participants of this trial were special. It wouldn't be a good thing if they died in Flaming River World. Thus, he was happy to see them return safely. The head of the chamber saw them too. The spectators realized that Cao Hongtu and his team had returned, but Wang Teng's group was nowhere in sight. Are you all the only ones who came out? The head of the chamber asked. Junior brother Wang Ting is still in Flaming River World. Cao Hongtu shook his head and revealed a perfect amount of sadness. He was putting on an act in front of others again, pretending to be a good senior brother. Sinclaman snorted in contempt in his heart when he saw his response. Superficial. Fake. He couldn't stand this man. Cao Wu pretended that he didn't see anything. He was still immersed in the guilt of abandoning Cao Jiaojiao. He didn't have a good relationship with his siblings since every one of them had different viewpoints and interests, but they were still blood-related. He wasn't a heartless man. Let's wait a while longer, the head of the chamber suggested. The flaming river mirror above them turned blurry and exploded with a bang. The image shown in the mirror also disappeared. Everyone's expression changed slightly. Flaming River World has collapsed. The Flaming River mirror is useless, and we can't see the situation inside anymore. I'm afraid the possibility of their survival is grim. Qi Tiancheng's pupils constricted as he spoke in a dismal tone. The head of the chamber was a universe-stage martial warrior. He had been through many situations, so his composure was well trained. He quickly reacted and nodded in agreement. Everyone started discussing in low voices. However, since the head hadn't spoken, they continued waiting in place. After all, no one knew the result until the last moment. How is it? Valteru asked Sinclaman through voice transmission. That fellow entered the location of the final legacy. He hadn't come out when I left, Sinclaman reported truthfully. That means he still has a chance to come out. Valteru frowned. The legacy of a universe-stage martial warrior isn't easy to get. That fellow is just a planetary-stage martial warrior who overestimated his own ability. He probably has no chance of leaving the small world. Sinclaman snorted. While they were talking, the glow within the tree hole distorted before dissipating. The entrance to the Flaming River World had disappeared. There was a huge commotion. This time, there was no hope. Cao Hongtu and Sinclaman were elated. They exchanged glances with each other and saw an inconspicuous smile at the corner of each other's lips. This was the best ending. Was that bastard finally dead? They hated Wang Ting to the core, so they wished that he could drop dead. Thus, when they saw this scene, they wanted to scream to vent the frustration and anger in their hearts. But when Sinclaman remembered the two divine flames Wang Ting had, he felt his heart breaking. Those were divine flames. And there were two. It was a pity that they were gone. Sinclaman felt his heart throbbing as if he had lost a few billion. It was all that brat's fault. He would rather die than pass him the divine flames. The divine flames would vanish along with the small world. No matter how powerful he was, he wouldn't be able to retrieve it. Cao Hongtu heaved a sigh of relief. They hadn't completed most of the missions for this trial. If Wang Ting was here, he might lose. The good thing was, Wang Ting died in Flaming River World, making him the winner by default. Ha ha ha. If the situation allowed him to, he wanted to laugh. He was the final winner. No one could take the title away from him. Wang Ting was just a planetary stage martial warrior. He was seeking death when he decided to fight with him. The other members of the chamber sighed. No one expected the trial to end in this manner. The young man who dared to challenge a heaven-stage martial warrior still lost in the end. Although many members of the chamber looked down on Wang Ting who had no background, they admired his courage. Well, at least he was a brave country bumpkin. The head of the chamber stood up with his forever calm expression. No one could tell what he was thinking. Maybe he didn't care about this planetary stage martial warrior either. Head, Cao Hongtu is the winner of this trial, right? Cao Hongtu stood up and said after bowing. A sharp glint flashed past Cao Hongtu's eyes. Ambition was growing in his heart. The Baron's title belonged to him. Finally, no one could threaten him now. He looked at the head of the chamber with burning eyes, waiting for this elder to say the final verdict. He had waited too many years for this result. To him, every single second was torture. He might be a heaven-stage martial warrior, but he had a hard time controlling the agitation in his heart. He wished he could pry open the elder's mouth and force him to speak. Unfortunately, he didn't have the guts. Since the result is out, The elder's calm voice finally resounded. Suddenly, he stopped, staring at the tree hole. The tree hole was shimmering. The space in the hole started to distort and the vanished door appeared again. Cao Hongtu and Sinclamen were flabbergasted. They were filled with disbelief. How was that possible? Bewilderment overwhelmed their hearts. They couldn't accept the truth and stared intently at the space door. Their gazes were sinister. The calmness and pretense a second ago were gone. None of them wished to see Wang Teng's figure. However, at this stage, they had no say over anything. A few figures stepped out from the light. The person leading the way was wearing a battle uniform. He stood up straight and had a calm smile on his face. He was Wang Teng. The mecha martial warriors followed closely behind him like his guards. Cao Hongtu and Sinclamen's expressions turned ugly. They almost went mad. They nearly jumped in joy when they thought Wang Ting had died in Flaming River World. Yet, he was standing right in front of them now. This was a tight slap in their faces. Why isn't he dead? Cao Hongtu's eyes were bloodshot. He almost went out of control. The Baron's title flew away the moment it touched his hands. His title was gone. After a moment of daze, the members of the chamber were dumbfounded. Some started to gloat, looking back and forth between Cao Hongtu and Wang Teng. This was an exceptionally interesting scene. Hey, everyone is here. Wang Ting stepped out of the door and greeted everyone after looking around. Then, he paused and focused on Cao Hongtu. He chuckled. Senior brother Cao, Sir Sinclamen, y'all ran really fast. You guys disappeared before I came out from the legacy location. I thought something happened to you. Cao Hongtu. Sinclamen. Chapter 1033. This is too much. Cao Hongtu and Sinclamen were infuriated. What did he mean by that? He made them sound like cowards who were afraid of death. He was ruining their reputation. The others didn't think much at first since they wouldn't dare to stay in Flaming River World when it was collapsing either. It was understandable that Cao Hongtu and his team came out first. Moreover, they exited it just before the world collapsed. However, after hearing Wang Teng's words, everyone started to think differently. These two heaven stage martial warriors weren't as calm as a planetary stage martial warrior. They ran away while Wang Teng came out almost at the last second. This comparison portrayed the difference between them. Cao Hongtu and Sinclamen's faces turned black when they noticed everyone's gazes. Wang Teng ignored them with a smile. He turned to look at the head of the chamber and bowed. Head, I've completed all 3 missions. All 3 missions? Everyone was stunned. Wait, he said that he entered the legacy location, right? That's right. That's what he said. By completing the 3 missions, it means that has gotten the legacy. There was a commotion. Everyone was shocked by Wang Teng's words. The last legacy had remained untouched for many years, yet Wang Teng managed to get it. Was he telling the truth? Some people noticed Cao Hongtu and Sinclamen's expressions and had their answers. Qi Tiancheng was dumbstruck. He stared at Wang Teng in disbelief. Did this young man receive the final legacy from their ancestor? They had tried multiple times but failed. Many talents before him failed to get it too. How did he succeed? Even the head of the chamber was stunned. He confirmed. Oh, did you really get it? Wang Teng smiled. A fire pattern appeared on his forehead. This fire pattern was formed after he absorbed the legacy crystal into his body. Normally, legacies left behind would have their own mark. This was a symbol of identity. Indeed, this is the mark of the Flaming River legacy. The head nodded. Qi Tiancheng recognized the mark instantly. The little hope left in his heart vanished. Wang Teng got the legacy. This was an undeniable truth. Sinclamen's face was as black as the bottom of a pot. He didn't get the divine flames nor the legacy. Immense frustration and exasperation were devouring him. The legacy mark on Wang Teng's forehead couldn't be fake. Thus, no one questioned him. Wang Teng received the legacy, so he was most likely the final winner unless Cao Hongtu finished the other 2 missions. That was the only way he could fight with Wang Teng. However, Cao Hongtu wasn't confident. His brows were locked in a tight frown. Wang Teng smirked. He didn't want to end it like this, so he blinked and took out the flaming river crystals and the fire black toads from his space ring. Boom! With a dull thud, a heap of fire black toad corpses and flaming red crystals appeared on the ground. They piled up beside the crowd like two small hills. Everyone was bewildered. These are the flaming river crystals I dug up and the fire black toads I killed. There are more than 50,000 kilograms of flaming river crystals and more than 2,000 fire black toads, Wang Teng said calmly. Silence. Goodness. There was silence for a moment. Then, gasps resounded all around. The crowd was thunderstruck. 50,000 kilograms of flaming river crystals. 2,000 fire black toad. To top it all off, most of them were mid-tier imperial-level star beasts. How did Wang Teng do it? No one dared to say that they could achieve the same results if they entered Flaming River World. Mind you, the resources in Flaming River World had depleted greatly over the years, especially the Flaming River crystals. Even though the majority of them had been dug up, he still managed to find 50,000 kilograms. This was unbelievable. Qi Tiancheng understood the situation of the Flaming River crystals the most. When he saw this scene, he wondered if Wang Teng bought numerous Flaming River crystals before he entered the small world and took them out to add to his tally. But after thinking about it carefully, this was impossible. Flaming River crystals were the specialty product of Flaming River World. It was hard to find them outside, so he wouldn't be able to gather 50,000 kilograms of them. Thus, it was highly likely that Wang Teng excavated them from Flaming River World. Was he a mole? Qi Tiancheng started complaining in his heart. If Wang Teng knew what he was thinking, he might spit saliva on his face. To hell with being a mole. Was he wrong to collect more Flaming River crystals? Fortunately, he couldn't read Qi Tiancheng's mind. Wang Teng turned to Cao Hongtu and reminded him sincerely, "Senior brother Cao, what about you? Why don't you take yours out for us to count?" Cao Hongtu's face turned green. What an evil fellow. He won, yet he still wanted to trample his ego. It was obvious that he wanted to embarrass him. No need. I admit defeat. Cao Hongtu had no choice but to swallow his frustration. He recalled how proud and confident he was when he entered Flaming River World. He felt bitter. He had nothing left. He lost. He lost entirely. Ashamed, Cao Hongtu almost fainted. He wanted to leave this place as quickly as possible. No one expected Cao Hongtu to admit defeat so quickly. They were surprised. After all, this would affect who got the Baron's title. Cao Hongtu had been working hard and scheming for this title for numerous decades. Would he be willing to admit defeat now? No one would understand Cao Hongtu's unwillingness. However, he didn't have a choice. The result was final. He had no chance of turning the tides. "Senior brother, why did you admit defeat?" "We haven't compared our spoils yet," Wang Teng asked in a puzzled tone. Everyone. Even Cao Hongtu couldn't control his anger this time. He glared at Wang Teng as he was burning with fury. He had given up pretending. Everyone had a new understanding of how evil Wang Teng was. He perfectly showed how to slap someone in the face in public. "Wang Teng, don't go overboard," Cao Hongtu shouted. "Did I? I just feel that it's a pity if you admit defeat before comparing. What if you perform better for the first two missions? After all, your team had 2 Heaven Stage martial warriors. If you put in the effort, you can win," Wang Teng said. Cao Hongtu froze. He didn't know what to say. His face assuming the hue of green, his gaze turned sharp. Everyone finally realized that Sinclaman had entered Flaming River World with Cao Hongtu too. That meant that Wang Teng won against 2 Heaven Stage martial warriors. Was he too strong or were Cao Hongtu and Sinclaman too weak? Everyone stared at Sinclaman and Cao Hongtu strangely. This is too much. Sinclaman's face turned hideous when he saw those gazes. He was so angry his body started trembling. Chapter 1034. If anyone dared to offend him, he would get rid of all of them. TSK. This Wang Teng is not a weakling. Cao Hongtu and Sinclamen will probably die of anger. Someone who dares to compete for the title alone is not a simple person. He's a bit evil. With that character, only a few of our juniors can compare to him. Hehe, that's true. This young fellow is really interesting. When he becomes a baron, we can let our youngsters get together. The members of the noble family consultation chamber talked amongst each other. After all, they were not the ones affected. Although they lowered their voices, everyone present was powerful martial warriors. They could hear all the chatter. That was why Sinclamen and Cao Hongtu's faces became gloomier. However, they were helpless and depressed. In particular, these noble families saw Wang Ting in another light, and they didn't prevent their younger generations from interacting with him. Perhaps to them, the title of the Baron was enough of a qualification to interact with them. Of course, they were optimistic about Wang Ting. After all, he was young and dared to confront a heaven stage martial warrior. This wasn't something anyone could do. All right. The head of the council waved his hand and said, "This is the end of the trial. Wang Ting has won." "Thank you, sir." Since the head of the council had spoken, Wang Ting accepted it readily and didn't provoke Cao Hongtu and Sinclamen any longer. "You don't have to thank me. This is the result of your own efforts," the head of the council spoke calmly. "It's over. Everyone, follow me back to Great Chen Planet." "Yes," the crowd responded. Wang Ting bowed to the council head. He then kept away the fire black toads and flaming river crystals. These were the harvests of his trip and were of great benefit to Little White and the metal armor flaming scorpion. They couldn't be wasted. "Mr. Qi, our business is over. We'll leave soon," the head of the council said to Qi Tiancheng. "Understood. I'll send off council head and everyone." Qi Tiancheng nodded. He then personally sent everyone outside the Qi family's residence and watched them board the rune energy flying cars that were parked at the docks. Wang Ting also followed everyone and boarded the flying car. Qi Tiancheng looked at Wang Ting. He wanted to say something but hesitated. In the end, it turned into a sigh. He had obtained the legacy, and it didn't have anything to do with the Qi family. Wang Ting and the others left the residence and went straight to the docks. They then boarded the spacecraft and headed back to Great Chen Planet. Everything was the same as when they came. There was no disturbance. However, everyone knew that when they returned to the Great Chen Planet, there would be an uproar in the upper circles of the Empire. The Empire has not had a new noble for many years. Although the Baron title was a legacy left by an old noble, it was going to a new person. He wasn't a descendant of any family and a renowned and established martial warrior from the Empire either. The inheritor was just someone from an underdeveloped planet. And he was a planetary stage martial warrior. If this was in the past, it would have been impossible for him to obtain the title. Yet Wang Ting managed to do it. He defeated the heaven stage martial warrior Cao Hongtu fair and square and obtained the title. No one could question it. That was why once the result spread on the Great Chen Planet, it would definitely surprise everyone. The day when Wang Ting inherited the title of Baron, it would be an extremely rare event. At this moment on the spacecraft, Sinclamen and Valteru from the Parker's family and Cao Hongtu were gathered in a spacious and luxurious room. Sinclamen was talking about the encounters in Flaming River World. "What? 2 divine flames?" Valteru's eyes widened. His face was full of disbelief. If it wasn't for Sinclamen and Cao Hongtu's repeated assurances, he wouldn't have believed it. This was truly unbelievable. A divine flame was already rare. Wang Ting actually had 2 of them, and one of them was even discovered in Flaming River World. Valteru wanted to strangle Sinclamen. He was so useless. 2 heaven stage martial warriors couldn't compete with a planetary stage martial warrior. What did he need them for? "The 2 of you are useless." Valteru's eyes were red as he lambasted them. Cao Hongtu and Sinclamen had nasty expressions. However, they didn't dare to refute Valteru. This was because his status in the Parkers was special. He was the family head's successor, and he had the potential to reach the universe stage. "That brat actually has 2 divine flames. We must let the elders know and let them come forward." Valteru took a few deep breaths and calmed himself down. However, we will have to wait. After all, he has just inherited the title. If we act too soon, there will undoubtedly be contempt towards the empire. Sinclaman and Cao Hongtu also knew that this was the only way forward and nodded. The atmosphere in the room became depressing. There's one more thing, Sinclaman said. Tell me everything at once, Valteru said coldly. That bastard possesses space talent. Space talent. Valteru was stunned again. How is it possible that he has space talent? Cao Hongtu was also shocked. His eyes widened in disbelief. Nothing is impossible. I saw it with my own eyes. Otherwise, do you think he could survive in my hands? Sinclaman said. Valteru and Cao Hongtu found it hard to believe, but they had to admit Sinclaman made sense. A planetary stage martial warrior who could make a heaven stage martial warrior yield to him repeatedly was indeed abnormal. He wouldn't have been able to do it if he didn't have a trump card. We have to get rid of that brat. His threat is much bigger than Nangong Yu back then. He will definitely be a threat to us when the time comes, Valteru said in a cold voice. On the other side, Wang Teng was in his room counting his loot. He didn't know what Cao Hongtu and the others were doing. But he could guess that after what had happened, they would be thinking of ways to target him. He had originally wanted to find an opportunity in Flaming River World to kill Cao Hongtu and Sinclaman. However, there was the legacy of Flaming River World owner and the attribute bubbles. There was no time for him to pay attention to them. So he had to let them off this time round. They were already at each other's throats, and it was impossible for them to ease the tension between them. It didn't matter whether they knew about his talent. Besides, if he killed Sinclaman, the Parkers wouldn't have let him off either. It was all the same. The most important thing was for him to improve himself. Now, his space talent could threaten heaven stage martial warriors. He could protect himself and gain a footing in the Great Qian Empire. He didn't have to worry about being their target. If they gave him time to develop, he wouldn't fear the Parkers family. If anyone dared to offend him, he would get rid of all of them. Chapter 1035, The Inheritance of the Flaming River Martial Warrior. A Huge Treasure. 1. In the Universe Spacecraft. In the room, Wang Ting fiddled with the ring that had complex fire patterns on its surface. He studied them carefully and asked, "Is this the space ring left by the owner of Flaming River World?" "I think so. It was embedded in the Legacy Stone and only appeared after you absorbed the Legacy Stone." Round Ball nodded and touched its chin after it came out from the Life Energy Stone. "Let's see what's inside." Wang Ting sent his spirit into the space ring with a glimmer in his eyes. Round Ball waited patiently at the side, staring at Wang Ting without moving. After some time, Wang Teng's spirit came out from the space ring. His eyes were shining with glee. "How is it?" Round Ball asked hurriedly. "There's a lot of good stuff," Wang Teng exclaimed. F***K, I know that there are many good things. This is the space ring left by a universe stage martial warrior. Quick, what items are there? Round Ball shot back. When it followed Nangong Yu, it mostly met Cosmos stage martial warriors. It had never seen the treasures of a universe stage martial warrior. However, after following Wang Teng who came from a backward planet, it managed to see a universe stage martial warrior's spatial ring. It hadn't been long since it followed Wang Teng, so this was unimaginable. It was filled with curiosity. This was the inheritance of a universe stage martial warrior. Left outside, it would definitely cause a huge uproar and bloodbath. Wang Teng took out a small box and opened it. There was a fiery red bank card inside. The special symbol of the Flaming River martial warrior was printed on it. A bank card from Universe Bank. Round Ball immediately recognized the card. It widened its eyes and exclaimed, "What's more, this is an exclusive bank card." That's right. Based on the will of the Flaming River martial warrior, there seems to be a huge wealth inside. Wang Teng nodded. "Quick, check how much there is." Round Ball was going crazy. A universe stage martial warrior definitely had his pockets full. It was dying to know the exact contents. "Log in and check the account yourself." Wang Teng threw the card at it calmly. Round Ball caught it hurriedly. This bank card was made from a special material. Cosmos stage martial warriors wouldn't be able to damage it, but it was still nervous because there was a huge sum of money inside. This wasn't an ordinary card. It quickly logged in to the virtual internet page of Universe Bank to check the bank card. Dear 5-star client, greetings. Your account balance is 288900. A female voice was heard. It wasn't a dead robotic voice. Instead, it was a mesmerizing lady's voice that was pleasant and elegant. It could melt people's hearts. Only high-level clients of Universe Bank could enjoy this privilege. They could customize the voice according to their tastes. Wang Teng didn't think that the owner of Flaming River World was this kind of person. Did he like young ladies? Cough. I'm focusing on the wrong thing. Let's go back. Wang Teng turned his head when he heard the string of numbers and the number of zeros behind them. He was appalled. He knew that the amount inside the bank card was big since the owner of Flaming River World placed it specially in a box. However, the number still exceeded his expectations. 28.89 trillion. Yes, 28.89 trillion. Wang Teng almost sold the lightning essence insect he found inside his stone for 4 trillion GQC when he was rock gambling. At that time, he felt that it was a huge sum. But it wasn't even 1/7 of the balance on the card. Besides, that was in GQC. This sum was in universe coins, UC. What was UC? Universe coins were used universally. Its value was only slightly higher than the GQC because the Great Qian Empire was already a high-tier civilization. It was at the top of the pyramid when compared to the other powerful factions in the universe, so the value of its currency was similar to the value of the universal currency. In summary, Wang Teng got extremely rich overnight. Round Ball took a deep breath. It felt an upsurge of emotions. It was an intelligent life form, but it had never seen this much money. There were many treasures in the Nangong family's vault, but this universe stage martial warrior's wealth could give them a run for their money. Wang Teng accumulated such wealth even before he got the Baron's title. Round Ball felt that it had been wasting its life. It couldn't compare with Wang Teng. It didn't dare to either. This is a 5-star bank card. You can get many privileges from it. You can bind it to your name, Round Ball reminded Wang Teng after calming down. Alright, I'll leave it to you, Wang Teng said. Round Ball rolled its eyes. It never got a share of good things, yet it was always doing the hard work. Wang Teng was relaxed. This was the benefit of having an intelligent life form. It could solve any problem. It was convenient and dependable. Very soon, with Round Ball's help, Wang Teng bound his name to the bank card and became a 5-star client of Universe Bank. He was a person with many privileges now. Universe Bank's bank cards were differentiated by the number of stars, going from 1 to 9 stars. The greater the number of stars, the better the privileges. 5 stars was already a high level. Only universe stage martial warriors could reach this level. The unnamed bank card Nangong Yu left behind was good, but it was only a 3-star card. Actually, this is nothing, Wang Teng said. This is nothing. Wait, is there something incredible in the space ring? Round Ball asked. You look like a bumpkin. Wang Teng glanced at it from the corner of his eyes. Chapter 1036, The Inheritance of the Flaming Martial Warrior. A huge treasure. 2. What the? Round Ball never thought that Wang Teng would look down on it one day. It was in a bad mood. In the past, it was always the one looking down on Wang Teng. Now, the tides had turned. But it couldn't do anything. It realized that ever since Wang Teng stepped onto the big stage, he progressed at an unimaginable speed. It couldn't view him like how it did in the past or it would embarrass itself. It twirled its pupils and gave a cheeky expression as it said, "Come on, take it out. Please fulfill this bumpkin's wish and let me broaden my horizons." Wang Teng was rendered speechless. He gave it a strange look. Round Ball was shameless and had no ego. But he had to admit that he felt refreshed when he saw it lowering its back. This fellow was so arrogant at the start. It probably felt that it was Wang Teng's honor to have an intelligent life form like it serving him. Hence, Wang Teng took out a blade. It was entirely red, and there were countless runes carved on the surface. They were complex and mysterious. A thick aura of origin spread out, releasing powerful vibrations in the air. A universe-level weapon, Round Ball exclaimed in shock. Universe-level weapons were extraordinary. The runes carved on them weren't ordinary. They were origin runes closely related to the origin of the universe. Not all blacksmiths could forge these weapons. Even Wang Teng wouldn't be able to forge a universe-level weapon with his current mastery. This was why Round Ball was astounded. Universe-level weapons were exceptionally expensive. Some were even priceless. Every universe-level weapon was precious. A universe-level weapon was more expensive than the price of 100 life planets. Wang Teng recalled that when he left Earth, he couldn't even afford to buy a life planet. Now, a single item in his hand was worth so much. He felt emotional. There are many similar weapons like this in the space ring, Wang Teng said with a smile. Many similar weapons? Oh my god, as expected of a universe-stage martial warrior. Hez rich. Round Ball shouted in disbelief. Wang Teng took out a few other weapons. There were boxing gloves, swords, shields. There were more than 10 weapons and all of them were giving off the aura of origin. They were all universe-level weapons. F***K, F***K, F***K. Round Ball cursed 3 times consecutively. It was dumbfounded. These universe-level weapons were worth as much as a galaxy. What kind of concept was this? There were more than 10,000 life planets in a galaxy. Their combined price was an astonishing number. However, these weapons were worth more than them. It was hard to believe. Wang Ting's gaze landed on one of the weapons, a silver-white long spear that gave off a strange chill. It had the ice element. The blade was of the fire element, but not all the weapons were the same. There were other elements too. It was obvious that the Flaming River martial warrior didn't use all these weapons. Some were probably his battle trophies. As a famous and experienced universe-stage martial warrior, it was pretty normal. Ice element weapons were rare and expensive. Wang Teng possessed the ice element, so he could use this weapon. However, his ice force had not advanced to the planetary stage. It was lagging a little far behind. He touched his chin. When he had the chance, he would have to raise his ice force. Besides the ice element, he could use other element weapons too. After all, he was an all-rounder. The low-class weapons he used in the past could be thrown away. Anyway, he was a celestial stage martial warrior. If he used universe-level weapons, would other people try to snatch it from him out of greed? Good stuff. This is all good stuff. Round Ball was still in awe. It caressed the weapons as if they were precious treasures. Alright, let's look at other things. Wang Ting kept the weapon. He was afraid it would provoke hysteria in this oddball. Round Ball wanted to continue, but it knew that its actions were too exaggerated. It coughed awkwardly and restrained its longing gaze. Wang Ting chuckled in his heart as he took out another item. This was dark red battle armor. There were beautiful fire and cloud patterns on the surface with numerous mysterious runes wrapped around them. It gave off a dense aura of fire origin. From afar, it looked like a ball of flame burning furiously. This was universe-level battle armor. Gasp! Round Ball was staggered. A universe-level armor. A complete set of universe-level battle armor. This was scary. The Flaming River martial warrior even left his armor behind, Round Ball said in a hoarse voice. Yes, this came as a surprise. Wang Teng nodded. He sized up the armor and continued, however, this Flaming River martial warrior seems to like attention. Yes, a little. Round Ball understood him and sized up the armor with a strange expression. The image of this universe-stage martial warrior has collapsed in my heart. That's not important. What else is there? Round Ball asked. Wang Teng glanced through the space ring and a few other items appeared in front of him. They were all sealed in jade boxes. There were runes carved at the top, shimmering brightly. He opened one of the jade boxes. The instant he opened a crack, green light blossomed out of the box, along with a strong fragrance. It was mesmerizing. There was a thick aura of vitality as well. Just the smell alone made them invigorated. It felt as if the cells in their body were nourished and their quality of life leaped a few times. The muscles and bones felt like transforming too. It felt amazing. Bang! Wang Teng reacted instantly and closed the jade box. Sigh. He gave a long sigh and looked at Round Ball. Did I see wrong? Round Ball swallowed its saliva and asked. No, it's that thing. Wang Teng nodded. They barely caught a glimpse of it, but with his knowledge and the strong vitality they felt a moment ago, he knew that he was right. Vitality Jade Qingji. They said the name of the herb in the box simultaneously. The astonishment in their voices was apparent. I didn't expect it to be this, Round Ball said in disbelief. The Vitality Qingji was an extremely rare divine herb. It contained a vast amount of vitality. No matter how seriously injured a universe stage martial warrior was, he could recover immediately with this herb. This was like a second life for universe stage martial warriors. Of course, if one died naturally of old age, the Vitality Qingji wouldn't be able to save one's life. This might be why the Flaming River martial warrior left it behind. Wang Teng was elated. He kept it carefully. I wonder what the other jade boxes have. Round Ball said. Wang Teng's eyes lit up. The first jade box contained a rare herb. The other boxes should have extraordinary items too. He opened them and started calling out their names as if he was familiar with the items. Spiritual marrow fruit, crimson light plant. These are all rare herbs. They are the main ingredients for powerful spiritual dans, Wang Teng muttered to himself. As a Dan Grandmaster, he knew how precious these spiritual herbs were. If Grandmaster Hua Yuan and others saw these spiritual herbs, they might get envious. Keep them. This is such a worthwhile trip. Not only did you get a divine flame, but you also got the legacy of the Flaming River martial warrior. Not only that, you have the space ring he left behind. Normally, these space rings are given to their descendants. You're extremely lucky. Round Ball mumbled. Its jealousy was apparent. It saw too many treasures just now and they were all the personal collections of a universe stage martial warrior. Many heaven stage and universe stage martial warriors would fight to get them. Not all universe stage martial warriors were the same. The Flaming River martial warrior had been around for a long time, so he could accumulate such wealth. Normal universe stage martial warriors were lucky enough to have half of it. In summary, Wang Teng had hit the jackpot. Chapter 1037. Remember to clean the Nangong residence for me to stay. There's one more item that's worth a lot. Wang Teng said. There's more. Seriously? Round Ball felt its heart shuddering. It was a little numb as it asked, what is it? A universe spacecraft. Wang Teng replied. This universe-level spacecraft was inside the space ring, but he couldn't take it out now. Round Ball gasped loudly. A universe-level spacecraft? Wang Teng shook his head. Hold on to me. Round Ball said cheekily, why did this Flaming River martial warrior leave these things to you instead of giving them to his descendants? It didn't understand at all. It felt that the martial warrior must be tactless. Wang Teng reaped all the fruits of his labor. Even it felt a little envious and jealous. Ha ha ha, maybe he didn't want to endanger his family so he kept his treasures a secret. Wang Teng guessed. Who knows? The Qi family is pitiful. They only have one heaven stage martial warrior in their family currently. Their power has been dwindling. Round Ball shook its head. If the Flaming River martial warrior gave them his treasures, they might be in a better state. I don't really care, Wang Teng replied. You can continue gloating, Round Ball said speechlessly. Besides these items, there are many ores and star cores in the space ring too. They are quite valuable, Wang Teng said. This universe stage martial warrior left behind many things, Round Ball exclaimed. Wang Teng nodded in agreement. These resources are enough for you to cultivate to the universe stage, Round Ball said. I'll have to plan properly. After I become a baron, I'll go back to Earth to take a look. I won't feel at ease until I solve the issue there, Wang Teng said. Yes, after becoming a baron of the Great Qian Empire, you can have a galaxy as your territory. As for the Guardian of the Milky Way, He won't be a problem. You can ask Heaven Stage martial warriors to threaten him. At that time, the Olent Federation might give you the entire Milky Way as compensation, Roundball said. As a baron, I can seek help from Heaven Stage martial warriors. Wang Teng was surprised. Of course. These Heaven Stage martial warriors will listen to you if they are in your territory. This is how powerful a noble from the Great Chen Empire is, Roundball said proudly. Wang Ting understood. The baron title in a high-tier civilization and a low-tier civilization was different. There were many powerful martial warriors in the Great Chen Empire, including many Heaven Stage martial warriors. The majority of these Heaven Stage martial warriors attached themselves to various noble families, so naturally, they would listen to the nobles. Honestly, this was the first time a non-blue blood became a baron. Why didn't Nangong Yu ask Heaven Stage martial warriors for help in the past? Wang Teng thought of a question. It can't be helped. He's only at the Cosmos stage, so they wouldn't listen to him. Roundball felt helpless. I'm just a celestial stage martial warrior. Will they listen to me? I was happy for nothing. Wang Teng felt speechless too. You're wrong. The Heaven Stage martial warriors don't just look at your ability, they will look at the benefits you give them too. Master Nangong was very poor. He might have the talent, but he didn't have the money. He's not as rich as you. Look, you're able to recruit Heaven Stage martial warriors from the mecha race. Do you think you can't find other Heaven Stage formidable warriors? Roundball asked. You seem confident in me. Wang Ting was caught between laughter and tears. They chatted for some time. Wang Ting closed his eyes and sorted through the legacy left behind by the owner of Flaming River World. The Flaming River martial warrior was a powerful fire element martial warrior. He left many fire element scriptures and battle techniques as well as his years of inspiration. They were of great help to Wang Ting. Not everyone could enjoy the legacy of a universe stage martial warrior. More than 10 days later, the universe spacecraft arrived back on the Great Chen planet. Along the way, the noble family's representatives sent news back to their families to tell them that Wang Teng had won the Baron's title. This piece of news caused a huge commotion and astonishment in the higher class circle. No one expected this martial warrior from a backward planet to win the Baron's title. Cao Hongtu became the biggest loser. He was in a miserable state. The event continued snowballing. More and more people knew about it. Everyone was waiting for the day Wang Ting inherited the title. The spacecraft parked at the docks. Wang Ting followed the head of the chamber off the spacecraft and rode the orbital train back to the Great Chen planet. Before they parted, the head said to Wang Teng, "I'll report the result to the higher authorities. You can go back and wait for the news. I think you'll be able to inherit the Baron's title in less than 2 days." Thank you, Wang Ting thanked the head of the chamber quickly. He was elated. The head waved his hand and left with his subordinates. Cao Hongtu and the members of the Parker's family looked at Wang Ting from afar. They didn't leave. After the head of the chamber left, they walked over. Before the other party could open their mouths, Wang Ting said, "Senior brother Cao, remember to clean the Nangong residence for me." Cao Hongtu's face turned green. Anger surged in his heart. "You won't be able to stay there for long," he said coldly. "Are you threatening me?" Wang Ting raised his eyebrows and asked indifferently. Cao Hongtu wanted to retort, but Valteru stopped him. "In the Great Chen Empire, you can't cover the sky with your hands yet. If I can recruit one Heaven Stage martial warrior, I can recruit a second and third one." Wang Ting stared at Cao Hongtu and said coldly, "You can try if you want to die." Both parties had shed all pretenses, so Wang Teng didn't have to worry about anything. "You." Cao Hongtu's pupils shrank. "Young man, you should think before you speak. Don't act on impulse," Valteru said nonchalantly. "Who are you?" Wang Teng smirked. "You don't have the right to reprimand me. You'll suffer if you don't listen to other people's advice. Don't think that you can be arrogant just because you're a baron now." Valteru snorted. "Let me throw this sentence back at you. Don't think that you can be arrogant just because you're one of the 8 dukes," Wang Ting frowned and said. "Me." Valteru didn't expect Wang Ting to have the guts to threaten him. He was infuriated. He snorted, but suddenly, he remembered something and gave Wang Ting a meaningful glance. Then, he smiled coldly as if mocking him before turning around and leaving with Cao Hongtu. Wang Ting frowned. Valtter's gaze made him uncomfortable. It was as if he was a lamb waiting to be slaughtered. What are they planning? Wang Ting wondered. He didn't think that Cao Hongtu and the Parkers would let him go easily. Looks like I have to make preparations. Wang Ting's gaze flickered. He left with An Lan and returned to wait for the chamber's notice. Chapter 1038. The eve. Wang Ting stayed in the house after he came back to Great Chen City. He cultivated and digested his gains. News about his victory spread further and further. At a moment like this, there would definitely be people visiting him. The grandmasters he was familiar with came to congratulate him and told him that they would be present on the day of the ceremony to congratulate and give their gifts to him. Inheriting a baron's title was a huge affair. To Wang Ting, it was a happy event, so the merrier the better. He didn't have any background in the Great Qian Empire and was all alone. Hence, there might only be a few visitors on that day. This would be a great blow to his reputation. These grandmasters from the Secondary Career Alliance befriended Wang Ting because they acknowledged his potential. Thus, they were willing to support him and would come for the ceremony. At the same time, a storm was brewing on the entire Great Qian planet. Many factions were talking about this issue. Have you heard about the result of Baron Nangong's inheritance? That unlucky Baron Nangong? How many years has it been? Is there finally a result? Isn't Baron Nangong's disciple, Cao Hongtu, inheriting his title? I heard that he has been accumulating military exploits all this while so that he could get the title. You're so outdated. I heard that a native martial warrior from a backward planet came to fight with Cao Hongtu for the title. What? A native from a backward planet? Really? Are you kidding? Or is the native martial warrior an unprecedented talent? Who knows? I heard that he won the title from Cao Hongtu. He must be an extraordinary person. There were many people who felt the same way. All the factions were discussing and observing this issue secretly. Not everyone knew the details. This made them even more curious. In summary, this topic continued to be trending for a long time and showed no signs of dying down. The Baron ceremony will be held a day or two later. Let's go to Great Chen City to watch it. Right, well no after seeing it for ourselves. I'm curious about the native that won the Baron's title. Sure, see you in Great Chen City. A new Baron. He will be given a galaxy as his property. Anyone wants to seek refuge with him? Let's see what kind of person he is first. If he's an idiot, there's no point in it. That's right. If he doesn't have any potential, it will be a waste to follow him. Haha, if he's an unprecedented talent, y'all must grab the chance quickly. Some factions hurried to Great Chen City to take part in this big event. Within 2 days, a large number of tourists gathered in Great Chen City. The atmosphere got increasingly livelier. Some came to join in the fun while others were here to see Wang Ting. In the universe, it was difficult to become stronger if one didn't have any background. Members of nobility were able to rally different factions. This was the best choice for martial warriors from small factions. Also, they had a galaxy as their property. There were a huge number of life planets in a galaxy, so their earnings and potential future development were big. Moreover, this was a galaxy under a high-tier civilization, different from a galaxy under a low-tier civilization. The profits were worlds apart and the number of formidable martial warriors was incomparable too. For instance, the Olent Federation had 9 main galaxies but only 1 Cosmostage martial warrior guarded each galaxy. In the Great Qian Empire, there were already thousands of Cosmostage martial warriors and ample Heavenstage martial warriors. Nothing was comparable. There was nothing that needed to be said about all the wealth these life planets could generate. It was an immeasurable number. The Olent Federation was dependent on the Great Qian Empire. There were many mid-tier and low-tier civilizations under a high-tier civilization. However, they had their own governance, and the high-tier civilization wouldn't interfere in their affairs. Hence, When a high-tier civilization chose a galaxy for a reward, they wouldn't choose a galaxy from a low-tier civilization. They would choose one from their territory. Well, the big nations cared about their reputation too. They couldn't give a backward galaxy to their own member of the nobility, right? Others would think of them as a joke. Currently, Wang Teng was staying in Fan Tining's residence. 2 days passed quickly. He received a message from the Great Qian noble family consultation chamber. The time of the ceremony was set. It would be held at 8 a.m. the next day. The location was at the Great Qian Palace. Wang Teng was surprised about the venue. Mind you, that was the most important and respected place in the entire Great Qian Empire. It was rumored that the most formidable martial warriors in the empire were stationed here. Some of them were at the eternal stage. Those people were at the peak of the universe's pyramid. Above the eternal stage were the gates to divinity. After all, eternal stage martial warriors already possessed longevity. It was difficult to imagine what could be after that, so calling it divinity was understandable. Of course, this was what Wang Teng heard from others or what he guessed after obtaining the legacy of the Flaming River martial warrior. He didn't know the details clearly. The stage was too profound. It wasn't something he could touch at the moment. Even the Flaming River martial warrior didn't understand it, much less him. But if there were really such a powerful presence in the Great Qian Palace, he might be able to get some benefits. Other people might be dumbstruck if they knew Wang Teng's plans. He was eyeing the Great Qian Palace. Did he grow balls of steel? Wang Teng touched his chin and pondered for a moment. He felt that he could go with the flow at that time and only collect wool from this fat sheep when he was safe. This was the right way. After confirming his plan, he looked at the message on his wristwatch and scrolled down. Besides the time and date, there were other details in the message, including things to note during the ceremony and the noble formalities, etc. The barren ceremony of a high-tier civilization had its rules and regulations. It wasn't just a simple ceremony. This is troublesome, Wang Teng muttered. Right then, he heard a knock on the door. Wang Teng frowned, wondering who came to find him at this time. Come in, he said. The door wasn't locked. Master Fan Tining had asked his female disciple to bring an unexpected guest to Wang Teng. Guardian Ming Cheng. Wang Teng stood up and greeted him. The guest was the Heaven Stage martial warrior he had met in the noble family consultation chamber. Ming Cheng nodded and took out an item. These are the clothes you need to wear tomorrow. The head of the chamber asked me to send them to you. Wang Teng's gaze landed on the purple clothes in his hand. He was stunned. The noble family consultation chamber was extremely efficient. He received the message a few seconds ago and the clothes were already sent over. Chapter 1039, To Hell with a Native Marshal from a Backwards Planet. 1. Guardian Ming Cheng came and left quickly. He only came to bring him the clothes. Wang Teng sent him to the entrance personally. He didn't display any arrogance. The other party was a Heaven Stage martial warrior. It was already an honor for him to send clothes personally. You're welcome. You will be a baron soon. Your status is higher than mine. Guardian Ming Cheng gave a rare smile before he left. This was the first time Wang Teng experienced the special treatment of a noble. Even a Heaven Stage martial warrior treated him politely. He went back to his room and laid out the clothes, sizing them up. This was an extravagant and exquisite purple long gown with gold linings. There was a ferocious and majestic Kunwu beast sewn on it. It seemed to be roaring into the sky with a domineering aura. According to what Guardian Ming Cheng said, this noble uniform was made from silk produced by a high-tier imperial-level amethyst crystal silkworm and weaved using a special method. It was not only fire and water-resistant, but it also possessed a strong defense. A high-tier imperial-level star beast was equivalent to a Heaven Stage martial warrior. This amethyst crystal silkworm was a rare star beast, so the silk it produced must be of extremely high quality. Wang Teng was surprised that it was used to make clothes. Fan Tining's female disciple hadn't left. She stood at the door and stared at the robe with glistening eyes. Grandmaster Wang Ting, you're going to be a noble soon. A strange glimmer appeared in her eyes as she stared at Wang Ting. This young man wasn't just a grandmaster. He was also a noble of the empire and was young and handsome. He was the Prince Charming of every young lady. Cough. Wang Ting coughed awkwardly. He immediately knew that there was something wrong with this young lady. But she was thinking too much if she was trying to seduce him. He didn't mind accepting her as his mistress if she was as beautiful as Cao Jiao. Kui sight, her looks were not bad, but he felt that she wasn't worthy of him. Her talent was normal. She didn't even have the right to be his servant. If she wasn't Fan Tining's disciple, Wang Ting wouldn't even bother about her. Wang Ting stared at her contemptuously, found a random reason to push her away, and closed the door. Ha ha ha, Round Ball appeared and laughed loudly. Why are you laughing? Wang Ting barked. Do you understand the benefits of being a noble? This lady wants to seduce you, Round Ball said proudly. Isn't it because I'm handsome? I think she's eyeing my looks, Wang Ting said. Fart. Round Ball rolled its eyes and pretended to vomit. Go away. Wang Ting was furious. Round Ball ignored him and floated in front of the purple gown. It reached out and caressed it gently with a sorrowful expression. Wang Ting knew that it must be thinking of Nangongyu from its expression. He didn't know how to console it. With a sigh, Round Ball disappeared. Only its voice resounded in the air. Tomorrow is your Baron ceremony. Prepare properly. Wang Ting shook his head. The night passed in the blink of an eye. The next day, a huge crowd had assembled outside the Great Qian Palace bright and early in the morning. Noises of discussions soared into the sky. It was extremely lively. There was a long white jade staircase behind the plaza. It seemed to stretch all the way into the sky. The Great Qian Palace was situated behind the stairs, concealed in a curtain of mist. When the breeze blew, a small tip of this towering and majestic palace was revealed. Behind it was an entire patch of mountain range laid on the horizon. It separated the sky and the ground, also shrouded in clouds. It was a mysterious scene. This was the forbidden ground of the empire. It was said that the ancestors of the empire were buried here. Even the country's divine beast, Kunwu beast, was hibernating in this mountain range. Of course, these were all legends. No one saw it personally. The crowd started to get a little impatient after waiting for some time. Why hasn't he arrived yet? We have been waiting for so long, but there's no sign of anyone. I woke up before dawn. Me too. I wouldn't be able to squeeze my way in if I had come later. Chimph, isn't it just a baron? Do you'll have to be so excited? Everyone was curious about the ceremony. They wondered what this native looked like. This situation rarely occurred in the Great Qian Empire. No one had heard of a native from a remote planet becoming a baron in a high-tier civilization. This was the first time. Some people felt that they would be able to witness a genius in action. Others felt that this was just a rumor. The real person might not be as powerful as the stories made him out to be. Suddenly, the place turned quiet. Look, it's the flying car of the Duke of the Empire. The nobles are here, someone shouted. A rune energy flying car floated down from the sky. It had a strange flower insignia. Many people recognized it and exclaimed in surprise. The crimson gold fleur-de-lis. This is the symbol of Duke Sichu. I wonder who came. This is just a baron ceremony. Duke Sichu might not come. While everyone was discussing, a tall and lofty middle-aged man alighted from the car. He wore a stern expression and had a sharp gaze. It was impossible to stare him in the eye. Chapter 1040. To hell with a native martial warrior from a backward planet. 2. Oh my god, the inheritor of the Sichu family came personally. This is incredible. Why is he here? Does he have high hopes for the new baron? Silence. The 8 dukes were grand figures. There were 5 ranks of nobility in total: dukes, marquis, earl, viscount, and baron. The Sichu family had the highest rank and was a powerful faction. Duke Sichu didn't glance at the people around him, climbing the stairs immediately. Flying cars weren't allowed in the Great Qian Palace. Not even dukes were the exceptions to the rule. He had to climb the stairs just like everybody else. He appeared to be moving slowly. He climbed the stairs one by one but disappeared in the mist quickly. Gasp! Duke Situ is powerful. I heard that there are restriction runes carved into the stairs. The higher you climb, the bigger the pressure. It's difficult to move forward, someone who knew the situation explained. Of course. This is the current inheritor of the Situ family. Hes at least at the universe stage. This is too scary. Hey, someone else is here. A spectator noticed another rune flying car. Their attention was attracted by it. This time, it wasn't just one flying car. A few flying cars landed, and numerous nobles dressed in purple gowns alighted. They started climbing the white jade stairs one after another. It's the Viscount Chen family, the Earl Wang family, the Duke Stuart family. The people below started reciting the surnames of the nobles as if counting treasures. It was easy to spot them. Every family had its own emblem. With their numerous years of legacy, everyone recognized them at a glance. Within a short 10 minutes, many nobles arrived. All of them climbed the white jade stairs. That's one of the 8 dukes, the Parkers, someone exclaimed. There was a moment of silence. Everyone's gaze landed on the extravagant flying car in the air until it parked. No one spoke even after someone alighted and climbed the stairs. They were dumbstruck. Gasps were suddenly heard. As expected of the 8 dukes. His presence was too overpowering. Duke Situ can't be compared to him. That's right, look at the symbol of the Parkers. That's the legendary universe behemoth, the blazing giant dragon. Look at how frightening and savage it is. It's so dark and forbidding. The Parkers family is domineering. No one dares to provoke them. Well, I heard that the new Baron has some grudges with them. Really? Hes dead. What happened? The new Baron just arrived in the Empire, right? Why would he have any conflict with the Parkers? Who knows? There'll be a good show to watch. F***K. I was wondering if I should follow this new Baron, but I think I can give up the idea. I can't afford to offend the Parkers. Silence. Voices were heard continuously as the discussions never stopped. The crowd happily talked about the nobles' affairs. After some time, more flying cars came. It seemed as if the crowd would be given quite a few surprises today. The Cavendish family is here. This is another one of the 8 dukes. Haha, the Cavendish family isn't a pushover either. They're no weaker than the Parkers. These two families have always been at each other's throats. Their younger generations have been trying to best the other. There's no stopping it. One more. That's the G family. The G family is a duke too, but they have always kept a low profile. I didn't expect them to come today. As time passed, more and more nobles arrived. The plaza was packed with luxury car fleets. The crowd had to keep retreating, but no one dared to complain. Everyone was stunned that Wang Ting hadn't arrived even when all the nobles were here. Wasn't this new Baron impatient on this important day? Clang. Suddenly, a faraway and sad chime of a clock was heard. The sound rang in everyone's ears, silencing them. All noises disappeared. Only the chime echoed in the sky, resounding even after a long time. Everyone looked up. The mist around the white jade stairs had disappeared. Gold light sprinkled down from the sky. A resplendent and magnificent tall palace appeared in front of everyone. The onlookers were in awe. They lost their senses for some time and stared at the palace absent-mindedly. For some reason, the urge to kneel bloomed in their hearts, and the martial warriors started bending their knees one by one. The majority of the time, the palace was shrouded in mist. Only some corners of it could be seen, but it was enough for people to guess its grandeur and splendor. It rarely revealed its full appearance to the public. Tap. A clear footstep was heard. With the pin-drop silence as the backdrop, the footsteps couldn't be any louder. Everyone raised their heads and looked in the direction of the sound. They saw a young figure walking over from afar. He was wearing a purple long robe. His back was straight, and he had thick black hair. His young face was flawless and handsome. There was a divine Kunwu beast sewn on his chest. It moved along with the flow of the robe and appeared lifelike. His noble aura was striking. His presence was extraordinary. He was a genius, a talent. Is that the new Baron? Everyone was astounded. They didn't know how to express their current emotions. Was this a native martial warrior from a remote planet? Who said that? Come out right now. Let me beat you to death. Would a martial warrior from a backward planet have this aura and noble presence? The crowd started questioning their lives. They wondered if they recognized the wrong person. This might not be the new Baron. It might be an inheritor of some noble family or a talent groomed by a powerful faction. He went into the world recently, so no one recognized him. Yes, that was right. That must be the case. There were many female martial warriors in the crowd. Their eyes shone like bulbs when they saw the young man. He was so handsome and charismatic. A young talent like him was the perfect candidate for a boyfriend. Many strange thoughts went through everyone's mind. The figure strode over, passed through the crowd, and arrived below the white jade stairs. Wang Ting. A voice soared down from above and resounded in the plaza. Yes. Wang Ting raised his head and looked past the tall staircase. His expression was calm. Climb the stairs and stand before me. Then, you can inherit the Baron's title. The voice was heard again. The instant he finished speaking, purple restriction runes lit up on the white jade stairs. It made them seem even more mysterious. Yes. Wang Ting replied in a low tone. It's really him. Everyone widened their eyes in disbelief. They stared at the young figure whose back was facing them. He was the new Baron. At this moment, everyone had to accept the truth no matter how unbelievable it was. Oh my God, this young Baron looks completely different from what I thought. He looks like a real noble instead of a native from a backward planet. I dare to say that this new Baron is a rare talent. That's why he can win the Baron's title. Stop speaking. I heard that the restriction runes on the white jade stairs are special. Once activated, the higher the talent of the martial warrior, the more runes will light up and the greater the pressure. We will know if has a talent based on the number of runes lighting up. That's right, let's wait and see. I'm so curious. I wonder how many runes this Baron will light up. Look at his aura. He must be an exceptional talent. If not, I'll do a handstand and eat ***T. Oh my God, that's brutal. Brother, let me record what you just said. Everyone can be a witness. Wang Ting lifted his foot and stepped on the white jade stairs under everyone's gaze. He started his climb towards the Great Qian Palace. If you find any errors, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know so we can fix it as soon as possible. Tip: you can use left, right, A and D keyboard keys to browse between chapters. Chapter 1041. The instant Wang Ting stepped on the stairs, the purple runes brightened. It was dazzling. Invisible pressure bore down from the sky, landing on his head and shoulders in an attempt to push him down. Even the onlookers below felt it. Their expressions changed. Some weaker ones almost kneeled on the ground. The pressure released by the white jade stairs after the activation of the runes is vastly different from before. When the nobles climbed it, we didn't feel anything. However, we can feel the terrifying pressure now. Wang Ting has to bear so much pressure after just stepping on the stairs. His talent must be high. Wang Ting didn't care about the discussion. He focused his attention on climbing the stairs. The atmosphere suddenly turned a little special and dangerous. There were various spiritual disturbances affecting one's willpower. When the Great Qian noble family consultation chamber sent the message, they reminded him that the white jade stairs were extremely difficult to ascend. They said that this was a test of the person's talent and mentality. However, he didn't expect it to be this challenging. There were a few thousand steps in the staircase. It led all the way up, right to the foot of the palace. Purple runes lit up on the white jade stairs. Every step he climbed, the purple runes would double and the pressure on him would increase correspondingly. One could imagine how difficult it was. At this moment, the people below raised their heads to look at him while the people in the palace looked down. Everyone was paying close attention to the person climbing the stairs. Within a few seconds, Wang Ting had covered a few hundred steps. The pressure on him was 10 times stronger than before, and the spiritual disturbance worsened. Anyone with a weaker mentality would have broken down at this point. However, Wang Ting proceeded at a stable pace as if he were taking a stroll. He didn't rest. His expression was calm. He didn't frown at all. The spiritual disturbance didn't seem to affect him. This was the truth. There were all kinds of murmurs and babbles in his mind. However, the spiritual constellations in his consciousness glowed brightly and filled his mind with scorching spiritual energy. The strange noises disappeared without a trace. Wang Ting's state astounded the powerful nobles above the stairs. They looked at him and started a discussion. "This is interesting." Duke Sichu sat up straight in his seat and muttered to himself with a look of interest. No change in his expression and no effects on his actions. His consciousness is powerful. The Earl of the Wang family said, "The representative from my family in the noble family consultation chamber told me about this young man a few days ago. At first, I didn't believe him, but now, it looks like he was speaking the truth. It was worth the trip here." It's still too early to say. Valteru from the Parker's family scoffed. "He only climbed a few hundred steps. This is just the beginning." Valteru was only at the heaven stage, but he belonged to the Parkers. Even the dukes were afraid of him. Thus, when he spoke, everyone's expression turned strange. They had heard that Wang Ting and the Parkers were on bad terms. It seemed to be the truth. The nobles started to sympathize with Wang Ting. After offending the Parkers, he would probably have a hard time even if he inherited the baron's title. He might die without knowing anything. Baron Nangong was an example. Why is the mighty Parker's family targeting a small lad? Don't you find it embarrassing? A middle-aged man from the Cavendish family joined the conversation. This was a silver-haired man who was exceptionally handsome. If Wang Teng were here, he would definitely recognize him. He looked similar to Di Chi. Everyone was shocked that the Cavendish family spoke up for Wang Ting. Their gazes flickered. They turned and stared at the ground, waiting to watch a good show. Every time they gathered, these two Grand Dukes would argue with each other. This was an ad-lib performance. "Baller, why are you interfering in my affairs?" Valteru glanced at him and frowned. "I just don't like how you bully others with your power," Baller snorted and said. Everyone felt speechless. The Cavendish family was a dominating presence too. They were as famous as the Parkers for bullying others. Just when everyone thought that Valteru would continue the argument, he ceased fire and kept quiet. Baller smiled. He stopped provoking the other party. The other 6 Grand Dukes looked at them strangely. For some reason, they felt that these two families' reactions were strange. Wang Teng didn't know that his performance had ignited the noble's interest. He proceeded slowly and calmly, showing no impatience. He climbed more and more steps. The runes on the white jade stairs increased and the pressure got stronger. The people below were starting to retreat. They felt as if there was a huge mountain pressing down on their shoulders. This mountain was extremely heavy. It was about to crush them. The closer they were to the white jade stairs, the stronger the pressure. Only some powerful martial warriors managed to withstand the stress. The majority of them had retreated a few hundred meters away. If you find any errors, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know so we can fix it as soon as possible. Tip: you can use left, right, A and D keyboard keys to browse between chapters. Chapter 1042. There were only a few people scattered within the 30-meter radius of the white jade stairs. They were all Heaven Stage martial warriors. Further back at the 60-meter radius were Cosmos Stage martial warriors, about dozens of them. Some of them couldn't imagine how Wang Ting was hanging on. He was just a planetary stage martial warrior, yet he could withstand the overwhelming pressure and make it seem like he was doing it with ease. He was still walking up the stairs step by step. The most important thing was that they were feeling the disturbance in their spirits. If they didn't step back, their spirit would be affected by the murmurs and descend into chaos. This was absolutely fatal to most martial warriors. If one's spirit collapsed, no matter how strong the martial warrior's body was, it would be just an empty shell. Most of these martial warriors' spirits were ordinary. They wouldn't be able to withstand the spiritual disturbance from the stairs. In such a situation, Wang Teng reached the middle of the jade stairs after about 10 minutes. More and more runes lit up. If you counted them, you would realize that there were about 900 of them branded on the surface of the white jade stairs. It was a dazzling scene. Many nobles in front of the palace were shocked and had solemn expressions. 900 runes, and has only halfway through. This Wang Teng is not simple, really not simple. Duke Sichu spoke again with a trace of shock in his voice. I remember the Cavendish family's record is 2,380 runes. I don't know what number Wang Teng will reach, Baller said with a strange color on his face. Initially, he was entrusted by Di Chi to take care of Wang Teng a little. He felt that Di Chi had great insight. Wang Teng's talents were worthy of the Cavendish family's investment. The Parkers family's record is 2,503 runes. I'll see if he can break it, Valteru said with a gloomy expression. He, you Parkers have nothing but a stronger body. It's just a small advantage. Baller snickered. Legitimacy belongs to the victor. The Cavendish family is inferior to us. Valteru didn't back down. The record for the Great Qian Empire is around 2,800. It was left by a prince, another Grand Duke spoke. This was the Jiang family, which ranked 5th amongst the 8 dukes and had great influence. That's right. This record was left by that amazing and brilliant prince. No one has been able to break it after so many years. Even the descendants of the War Demon Hall who visited us could only reach 2,750 runes, a member of the Ji family spoke up too. The talent of that prince was really amazing. He's already at the pinnacle of the universe's younger generation. Only the heirs of the great powers could compare to him. This Wang Teng is nothing, Valteru exclaimed. Ha ha ha. That's true. No one could compare to the prince, a member of the Jiang family said. Guarded by the 8 dukes was a person dressed in a purple and golden robe who sat in the center. His aura was restrained and there were no fluctuations. He seemed like a normal person. However, his presence stood out too much. It was noble yet terrifying. This person was a member of the Empire's imperial family. His status was respected, and his strength was unfathomable. From the beginning till the end, he had his eyes closed as if he was indifferent to everything in the outside world. The discussions of the crowd entered his ears, but he didn't move. He continued resting. Why is he stopping? Someone suddenly asked in surprise. It turned out Wang Teng suddenly stopped and stood still after he was halfway through. He probably can't stand it. Valteru sneered. Looks like this is his limit. He has to stop and rest. The Jiang family member shook his head and sighed. They were just thinking that Wang Ting had potential. They didn't know that he would fail just like that. It looked like all that glittered was not gold. It can't be. He doesn't look like he has reached his limit. Baller was doubtful. There are actually attribute bubbles? Wang Ting looked at the stairs in front of him with great curiosity. There was a hint of surprise in his eyes. He stopped. It wasn't because he had reached his limit. It was solely because the attribute bubbles were blocking his path. He was walking happily without feeling any challenge and attribute bubbles appeared on the stairs suddenly just like that. Wang Ting had never seen attribute bubbles appearing like this. Let's see what we have here. Wang Teng was filled with curiosity and collected the 3 attribute bubbles in front of him. Godslayer Sword Scripture *10 Godslayer Sword Scripture *10 Godslayer Sword Scripture *10 inch this. In the next moment, waves of astonishment surged in his heart. The 3 attribute bubbles merged with his mind like a trace of cold air and turned into an extremely powerful battle technique. It wasn't quite accurate to call it a battle technique, but it wasn't a scripture either. This was a god scripture that consisted of battle techniques and scriptures. The reason why Wang Teng was shocked was that the god scripture was of the space element. A space element god scripture. Wang Teng suddenly felt the joy of having a treasure falling into his lap. It was too unexpected, too delightful. The god scripture turned into rays of light and shadows as they danced around in Wang Teng's mind. The light and shadows finally merged into one and turned into a human figure. With a point of its finger, the power of space condensed around it. Countless sword glows rose behind it and swept through the sky, rupturing the space into nothingness. The sword glows swept around as if they were annihilating constellations. The void shook and a galaxy collapsed. What kind of power was that? Wang Teng returned to his senses and was gasping for air uncontrollably. Even his back was drenched in sweat. That sword was too horrifying. Even he was terrified. It was as if he was experiencing it himself, like he was about to be annihilated. But it then turned into joy. Such a powerful God scripture belonged to him now. What was a God scripture? Wang Teng didn't understand it initially. However, as the attribute bubbles merged into his mind, he understood why they were called God scriptures. God scripture, as the name implied, was a battle technique and scripture that could allow anyone to reach the realm of the gods. It was the greatest legacy in the universe. Moreover, this God scripture belonged to the space element. It was even rarer. The origin of the Godslayer sword scripture was incredible as well. It was left behind by the ancestor who founded the Great Qian Empire and was engraved on the white jade stairs. The ancestor of the Great Qian Empire was a space element martial warrior. The role of the white jade stairs seemed to be testing one's talent. However, in reality, it was used to pass down this space god scripture. It was a pity that after so many years, no one managed to retrieve it. There was no one with space talent even amongst the descendants of the founder. But now, it made things easier for Wang Teng. How timely. I was worried about having no space element battle techniques to use, and they gave me a god scripture. This system is so understanding. Wang Teng smiled and praised the system deeply in his heart. He obtained a god scripture just by climbing stairs. Was there anything better than this? If the empire's nobles knew about this, they would be livid. He had obtained the Great Qian Empire's greatest legacy. He would probably be sliced into pieces. No one knew if the founder of the Great Qian Empire was still alive. Countless years had passed since then. Logically, he would have been dead long ago. However, eternal stage martial warriors were immortal and eternal. It was said that the founder was a terrifying existence that was above the eternal stage. He would probably be hiding in some corner secretly watching his descendants. After all, old men loved to peep. If you find any errors, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know so we can fix it as soon as possible. Valteru shot up from his seat with a black face. Wang Teng's talent is really high. He's almost on par with the strongest noble in our families, a member of the Jiang family said. Impressive. We have seen many unprecedented talents from faraway planets in our history. Will Wang Teng be one of them? A member of another noble family was staggered. Good riddance, I need to pull Wang Teng to my side. Borla's eyes lit up as he made the decision in his heart. Grandmaster Wang Teng's martial arts talent is outstanding too, the member of the Ji family muttered to himself. If Wang Teng was here, he would recognize this person as Ji Yuanqing, the martial warrior who bought the 9-essence soul congealing pill from him. Wang Teng didn't stop. He continued climbing at an increasing speed. 940 step. 950 step. 960 step. Boom. 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 The power of the runes exploded in response. 2400, 2500, 2600. He was slowly inching towards the highest record of the legendary prince. Boom. Finally, when he stepped on the 980th step, the number of runes reached 2800. All the nobles had lost their voices. Only disbelief was left in their eyes. No one spoke. All of them were holding their breaths. They could tell that Wang Teng hadn't hit his limit. The runes were still increasing. Boom. 985 steps. 2850 runes. Boom. 990 steps. 2900 runes. Boom. 995 steps. 2950 runes. Boom. 999 steps. 2999 runes. Silence. Dead silence. Not even a pin dropping could be heard. All the nobles stood up and stared in front. A figure was slowly appearing before everyone. Even the member of the imperial family opened his eyes to look at the young man. Tap. A clear footstep broke the silence. Wang Teng climbed the last step and stood right in front of the great Qian palace. A ray of golden light shining down from the towering palace fell on him. Boom. 3,000 runes. The runes erupted in power. 3,000 runes intertwined the white jade stairs, forming a rune chain circling Wang Teng. This was the limit of the white jade stairs. No one had ever done it in history. Wang Teng reached a height no one had ever touched. Everyone stared at this scene in a daze. A gentle breeze blew as the purple long gown and the thick black hair danced in the air. The young man looked exceptionally holy and divine under the light. Charismatic, dazzling, unprecedented. Chapter 1044, Imperial Order. Wang Teng is conferred as a baron of the Great Qian Empire. A figure stood below the Great Qian Palace. 3,000 runes, this was an unmatched limit. All eyes were fixed on him. Wang Teng was in the limelight. There should be applause here, however, there wasn't. Everyone regained their senses and looked at the person with a complicated expression. This native from a remote planet managed to break the record left by a prince. It was all a bit surreal. The difference between 2,800 and 3,000 was 200 runes, but these 200 runes were a chasm. The higher you went, the harder it was to light up more runes. The nobles present had to admit that it was almost impossible for anyone to break Wang Teng's record in the future. A huge uproar erupted amid the crowd below. The commotion soared right into the clouds. Oh my God, he's so powerful. Wow, this is impressive. Unbelievable. He broke the record left by the prince. Who can fight with such a talent? I'm Baron Wang Teng's diehard fan. Even if he has offended the Parkers, I'll still follow him. That's right. Let's go together. I'll be Baron Wang Teng's #1 sidekick. Bullshit, I'll be his #1 sidekick. It can only be me. The atmosphere below was electric. Everyone was awestruck by what happened, and it left a deep impression on their hearts. They couldn't control themselves. Why did talents have so many followers? This was probably the reason. Oh my God, Baron Wang Teng is so handsome. I'm getting wet. He's so handsome. I can't shift my eyes away. Fut, B***ch. Baron Wang Teng won't like B***ch like y'all. I want to be Baron Wang Teng's servant. I want to serve him and have close contact with him. Go away, I'm a pretty celestial stage martial warrior. I'm compatible with Baron Wang Teng. Many female martial warriors had other thoughts. Some wanted to be his servants while others started to go astray. No one could pull them back. How would Wang Teng react if he knew what was going on below? It was hard to find a planetary stage martial warrior on Earth. Every planetary stage martial warrior was a well-respected figure there. However, in the Great Qian Empire, even celestial stage martial warriors were fighting to follow him. The world changed quickly. Cao Hongtu was staggered. His face turned green and red. It was interesting to watch his expression. Cao Guan, Cao Wu, and Cao Ling were shaken. They looked as if they had seen a ghost. They couldn't accept the truth. Moreover, they even felt a sense of fear. It was absurd but real. If Wang Teng's talent surpassed the prince, it would be a devastating blow to their Cao family. The Grandmasters from the Secondary Career Alliance were astounded too. I didn't think that Grandmaster Wang Teng's martial arts talent would be so high. Grandmaster Alfred exclaimed. The other Grandmasters felt the same way. They didn't know what to say. Below the Great Qian Palace, Wang Teng stood in front of all the nobles and scanned them calmly. He took in everyone's expression and felt satisfied by their response. Good, I didn't waste my acting skills, especially when he saw Valterus I am so angry but I can't do anything expression. He felt refreshed. The man from the imperial family stood up and looked at Wang Teng. There was astonishment in the depth of his eyes as he said, "You're good." Wang Teng looked at the person too. When he saw his attire, He was stunned. This person was from the imperial family. He didn't think that the imperial family would attend his baron ceremony. The other nobles were flabbergasted. No one expected this man to compliment Wang Ting. But it was understandable. After all, he had broken the record of the prince. Wang Ting had caught the attention of the imperial family. Valtter's face turned black. His heart skipped a beat as he glanced at Wang Ting. Things were going out of hand. Bring out the baron's seal. The man opened his mouth again. Wang Ting blinked and took out the seal Nangong you had left behind. The seal floated in the air. The man from the imperial family waved his hand. A beam of golden light flew out. The baron's seal started giving off a dazzling golden light too. Drop your blood here, the man from the imperial family said. Wang Ting followed his instructions and pricked his finger. A drop of blood floated out and fell on the seal. Boom! The baron's seal immediately flew above Wang Ting's head and blossomed, giving off a brilliant light like a small sun. It blinded everyone. Wang Ting stood below the light like a god. Imperial order, Wang Ting is conferred as a baron of the Great Qian Empire. He will be part of our noble chamber. Born a Great Qian civilian, die a Great Qian spirit. The voice of the man from the imperial family spread out and echoed in the air, resounding through the entire city majestically. Everyone heard it. This was a privilege of a noble. Even if Wang Ting was just the lowest baron, he enjoyed this privilege too. Normal martial warriors couldn't be compared to the nobles. This was like a public announcement on all servers in a game. How envious. Wang Ting accepts the order. Wang Ting bent his back and stretched his arms straight. The baron's seal gradually landed in his hands. The man from the imperial family nodded in satisfaction. From today onward, you will be able to travel the universe as a citizen of the Great Qian planet. I hope you will make a name for yourself. Long live martial arts. Thank you. Wang Ting wanted to thank the man, but he suddenly realized he didn't know how to address him. Grand Duke Chongshan. The man from the imperial family smiled. Thank you, Grand Duke Chongshan, Wang Ting replied. Grand Duke Chongshan nodded with his hands behind his back. He felt more and more satisfied as he looked at Wang Ting. When Wang Ting raised his head, the Grand Duke was gone. It was as if he had never appeared. Wang Ting was dumbfounded. This Grand Duke Chongshan was a powerful martial warrior. He must be above the universe stage. After Grand Duke Chongshan left, the other nobles came forward to congratulate him. At the start, some of them were afraid of the Parkers, but after seeing his talent, they threw their reservations out of their mind. This man's talent had surpassed the talent of the prince. They felt that Wang Ting couldn't be compared to the prince since their foundation was different. But even so, they wouldn't be too far off. His potential was enough for them to ignore all threats and pull him to their sides. Also, Grand Duke Chongshan had complimented Wang Ting. It proved that he had great talent and would become a formidable and renowned martial warrior in the universe. Among the nobles, only Valtteru from the Parkers family stood far away. He didn't come forward to congratulate Wang Ting. Instead, he snorted with a black face and turned to leave. He didn't want to stay any longer. Chapter 1045. Wang Ting's Baron ceremony ended amid a huge commotion. The ceremony seemed simple, but it was dignified and stately. This was the power of the Great Qian Empire. Even a simple Baron ceremony was interesting to watch. The ceremony today undoubtedly left a deep expression on everyone's heart. Wang Ting's potential was etched in their minds, not just the female martial warriors. In an instant, Wang Ting's Baron ceremony became a hot topic in the city. Countless people discussed it happily. The news continued spreading, reaching numerous life planets through various channels. Information traveled quickly in the universe. There was also the virtual universe. The news was no longer constrained to one planet. Of course, Wang Ting didn't know all these. He left the Great Qian Palace with the nobles. Baron Wang Ting, your ceremony has ended. Well, wait to drink your congratulatory wine. An old baron laughed and said. That's right. This is a happy affair. Well, definitely come and mooch a drink off you. The barons didn't act arrogant because of their status. All of them were talking with smiles on their faces. The Grand Dukes didn't join them. As Grand Dukes, all of them had their pride and ego. They wouldn't bootlick him just because he had high talent. Even if they wanted to pull Wang Ting over, they would use other methods such as tying their interests together. This was a status problem. Their status was too high. After handling all these enthusiastic nobles, Wang Ting heaved a sigh of relief. Baron Wang Ting, a voice was heard. Guardian Ming Cheng. Wang Ting was surprised when he saw the person. Your fief has been decided. The head of the chamber asked me to inform you. I'll accompany you to claim back the Nangong residence too, Guardian Ming Cheng said. The fief is decided. Wang Ting was stunned. Yes. The higher authorities made the decision together. It's not bad. Ming Cheng smiled. Wang Ting heaved a sigh of relief. He was worried that the Parkers would meddle in this affair and give him a fief hard to manage. Now, it looked like they didn't have the right to interfere. Shall we head to the Nangong residence now? Guardian Ming Cheng asked. All right. Sorry to trouble you, Guardian. Wang Ting nodded. He didn't have a residence even though he had been living in Great Chen City for some time. Naturally, he wished to get a place to call home quickly. Cao Hongtu had stayed there for too long. It was time to take it back. With Ming Cheng's help, he wouldn't dare to pull any tricks. This is great. Round Ball was even more excited than him. It started shouting in his mind. Wang Ting smiled. Ignoring it, he headed to the Nangong residence with Ming Cheng. He called An Lan and brought him along too. This was Wang Ting's second time here. The previous time, he came as a guest, but now, he was the owner, the real owner. Wang Ting stood in front of the door with a Heaven Stage martial warrior standing on either side of him. The expressions of the guards beside the door changed slightly. They didn't dare to make any noises. When Wang Ting walked in, the guards didn't try to stop him. Are we letting him in just like this? A guard whispered. This is the new Baron. His identity is different now. Do you dare to stop him? The other guard replied helplessly. Sigh. Looks like it's time for us to leave the residence. Some guards sighed and shook their heads with complicated expressions. They followed Cao Hongtu partly because of his ability, but the main reason was the Baron's title. Since he had lost the title, their status dropped. Cao Hongtu was still a Heaven Stage martial warrior, but this status wasn't as powerful as a Baron. Wang Ting walked to the lobby before the Cao family appeared unwillingly. None of them was willing to leave the residence, especially Cao Hongtu's descendants. The Nangong residence was a facade. They wouldn't be able to enjoy a high-end lifestyle after leaving this place. They stared at Wang Ting bitterly, but no one dared to say anything. They were afraid of him. Senior brother Cao, have you packed up? I'm moving in today. Wang Ting smiled when he saw Cao Hongtu. Wang Ting, do you have to be so heartless? Cao Hongtu asked expressionlessly. He had put in a lot of effort and time to get the Baron's title, but in the end, he lost to Wang Ting, who came out of nowhere. Wang Ting threw a wrench in the works by snatching the Baron's title from him. He couldn't take it lying down. I gave you 2 days to prepare. If I were heartless, I would have chased you out, Wang Ting replied calmly. Senior brother Cao, are you all unwilling to leave? Wang Ting, this is too much. Cao Guan roared angrily with bloodshot eyes. His father was a baron-to-be, so he had been living a good life all this while. Many people were willing to curry favor with him, but everything was gone now. When Wang Ting first came, Cao Guan was all high and mighty. He showed contempt towards him, and now, he was getting chased out of his house like a dog. The difference was too big. He couldn't accept it. All this was because of Wang Ting. You could imagine how much he hated Wang Ting. Senior brother Cao, if your useless son dares to shout at me again, I won't show any mercy, Wang Ting replied calmly. Killing intent flashed in his eyes. Cao Guan's face turned pale. Beside anger, he felt fear creeping up his heart too. He took a few steps back involuntarily. If you find any errors, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know so we can fix it as soon as possible. Tip: you can use left, Right, A and D keyboard keys to browse between chapters. Chapter 1046, Wang Teng disregarded him though. His words were directed at Cao Hongtu. His reaction caused Cao Guan to feel humiliated. However, he didn't dare to refute him. He knew that if he spoke again, Wang Teng would act on his words. Cao Hongtu ignored Cao Guan. He was entirely disappointed in his son. He stared intently at Wang Ting and forced his words out of his teeth. "You're good." One could tell that he was trying his best to control his anger, but he failed. "I am indeed good." Wang Ting nodded. Cao Hongtu snorted. He stopped wasting time talking to Wang Ting and walked out of the Nangong residence with a hideous expression. Cao Wu, Cao Ling, and the others followed him. Although the rest of the Cao family was unwilling, they knew they couldn't stay any longer. Talk was useless. They could only leave. "Wait," Wang Ting suddenly said. "What else do you want?" Cao Hongtu turned and scoffed. "I want to make sure that you didn't bring anything that belongs to the Nangong family," Wang Ting said. "This is outrageous." Cao Hongtu felt humiliated. His face turned red, and his heaven stage aura surged out. And Lan snorted and stepped out, blocking in front of Wang Ting. He also released his aura. The two waves of auras collided in mid-air, their impact sweeping through the residence. Cao Hongtu's expression changed, and he hurriedly took a few steps back before he stabilized himself. His expression was distorted. He stared at Lan with fear in his eyes. In Flaming River World, he had worked with Synclamen to resist this Mecha Heaven Stage martial warrior. However, their abilities were suppressed to the Cosmos stage, so he couldn't see his real power. When both sides fought using their Heaven Stage ability, Cao Hongtu finally understood how powerful Lan was. Even Guardian Ming Cheng glanced at Lan in surprise. He was astounded. Guardian Ming Cheng realized why Wang Ting had called this mecha over. His ability was top tier even among Heaven Stage martial warriors. With him as his bodyguard, Cao Hongtu would admit defeat even if he wasn't around. Cao Guan and Cao Ling didn't know Lan's exact power. They only learned that he was a Heaven Stage martial warrior after seeing Cao Hongtu retreating. Besides, he was more powerful than their father. Their expressions changed, and disbelief filled up their faces. They didn't expect Wang Ting to have such a powerful person beside him. Was he honestly a native from a remote planet? Why would this Heaven Stage martial warrior listen to him? The Cao family was puzzled. At the same time, they grew more fearful of him. "Senior brother Cao, don't be reckless. The residence is mine. If you damage anything, you'll need to compensate me," Wang Ting said. Cao Hongtu almost vomited blood from anger. Ming Cheng was speechless. He felt that Wang Ting was an evil young man. He could anger someone to death. Although Lan was close to Wang Ting, he also felt that this guy was shameless. "Senior brother Cao, don't be angry. This is just a formality. If y'all didn't take anything, I won't hold you back," Wang Ting said indifferently. "Sir Cao, you should cooperate," Guardian Ming Cheng said. "All right, I'll wait here." Cao Hongtu took a deep breath. He felt exasperated. Wang Ting walked in and pretended to inspect the room. In reality, the person doing the job was Round Ball. As an intelligent life form, it kept a record of everything although many years had passed. Indeed, many things were missing. Many of them were from the Nangong family's collection. "Senior brother Cao, let's calculate the loss properly." Wang Ting turned and smiled. Cao Hongtu felt his heart skip a beat when he saw Wang Teng's expression. He had a bad feeling. There used to be a priceless mermaid pearl in the lobby. "It's the treasure of the mermaids, but it's gone now," Wang Ting said. Cao Hongtu had a deep impression of the pearl. He had gifted it to someone. What he didn't understand was how Wang Ting knew about it since he had never been to the Nangong residence before. "Bullshit. Why would we take anything from the Nangong residence?" Cao Guan shrunk behind Cao Hongtu and shouted with guilt. "Do you need me to show you the evidence?" Wang Ting said. Cao Hongtu's expression changed slightly. He wasn't stupid. Through Wang Teng's composed expression, he knew that the other party was confident. If he refused to admit it and he took out the evidence, they would be embarrassed in the end. His reputation might be affected if news spread that he took the private possessions of the Nangong family. Originally, as Nangong Yu's disciple, no one cared if he took them. However, things were different now. Wang Teng was the Baron, so everything here belonged to him. People would label him shameless if they knew a heaven-stage martial warrior did such a thing. It's all right. I'll compensate for the things I took. Cao Hongtu gritted his teeth. That's good. I know that my senior brother is not a thief, Wang Teng replied with a smile. This was a direct stab to the heart. He didn't leave any path of retreat for Cao Hongtu. I'll return all of them. Cao Hongtu turned and left. He didn't want to stay any longer. He wished he could bury himself. I'll make a list for you. Remember to look through it, Wang Ting shouted behind him. Cao Hongtu paused for a second. Then, he hastened his pace. Oh right, I'm throwing a banquet for the other nobles tomorrow. Remember to come, Wang Teng added. Cao Hongtu stumbled. He finally reached the entrance and hurriedly staggered out of everyone's sight. Guardian Ming Cheng and An Lan were caught between laughter and tears. They felt that Wang Ting was brutal. How could he provoke Cao Hongtu to this state? The Cao family left the Nangong residence dejectedly. Many families sent their men to watch over the Nangong residence. Some sighed while others gloated when they saw this scene. They felt pity for the Cao family. No one expected them to land in this state. In the Nangong residence. Everything is settled, so I'll take my leave now, Guardian Ming Cheng said. Thank you, Wang Teng replied. You don't have to thank me. You could solve this issue without me. Guardian Ming Cheng glanced at An Lan and waved his hand. I have sent the information of your fief to your virtual network. Please check. The relevant documents have been processed, so this galaxy is now under your name. Then, he disappeared on the spot. This Guardian Ming Cheng is powerful, An Lan said with a glow in his eyes. Just a little less than me, An Lan replied proudly. TSK. Wang Teng rolled his eyes. An Lan didn't mind. He chuckled. Wang Teng glanced around him and felt emotional. I have a place to stay. I don't have to stay in other people's homes anymore. You jumped from a civilian to a noble, An Lan exclaimed as he sized up his surroundings. This is a little empty. There's no one serving you. Besides that, everything is perfect. Makes sense. Wang Ting touched his chin. You can visit the slave market and take a look there. There are slaves from all races there. With your current wealth, you can buy as many as you want. You can even buy planetary stage slaves or higher. Round Ball's voice was heard in his mind. Slaves. Wang Ting frowned. Slaves felt a little far away to him. Well, it sounds exciting to have beauties from all races, right? Cough, I'm not that kind of person, Wang Teng replied in his mind. What are you thinking? Round Ball asked. Nothing, Wang Ting said firmly. You should take note of this. You're inviting the nobles tomorrow. You need slaves to serve everyone. Others might look down on you if you don't have any slaves, Round Ball said. All right, I understand. I'll visit the slave market later. Wang Ting nodded hurriedly. If you find any errors, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know so we can fix it as soon as possible. Chapter 1047. Wang Teng didn't hurry to the slave market. He toured the Nangong residence casually and familiarized himself with it first. Although he had asked Round Ball to check the items, he didn't take a proper look personally. He only had the chance to observe his future home after everything ended. The Nangong residence was a baron's residence, but it had a long history and a strong foundation. Thus, in terms of extravagance and land mass, it fit the standard requirements of a baron's residence. The entire residence consisted of a lobby, a garden, a courtyard, a study, a residence area, etc. All facilities could be found here. This residence was many times better than Fan Tining's place. I'm starting to envy you, An Lan came beside him and commented after a simple tour. You can stay here for the time being, Wang Teng replied with a smile. You're trying to squeeze every last bit of me. And Lan complained unhappily. I can't help it. You're the only heaven stage martial warrior I know. I need your help for many things. Wang Teng shrugged and explained. Add money. More money. And Lan shouted. All right, Wang Teng agreed generously. That's more like it. And Lan nodded in satisfaction. I'm heading to the slave market to buy some slaves. We definitely need some people to clean up this huge residence. Wang Ting shook his head helplessly. I'll follow you. And Lan's eyes lit up. He seemed extremely interested. Why is a mecha martial warrior like you interested in such things? Wang Ting didn't know what to feel. You don't understand, and Lan replied in a meaningful tone. What do you mean by that? I didn't know you were a pervert. The two of them went around the Nangong residence to get used to this place. Then, they went out. Along the way, Round Ball remained quiet. It was dead silent. Wang Teng and An Lan took a rune energy flying car and arrived at the slave market. It was easy to find. After all, it was a popular place in Great Chen City. No, any prosperous planet or city in the universe would have a slave market. It was the most profitable business in the universe. Many powerful martial warriors owned numerous life planets. How would they increase their earnings? Besides some planets that had abundant natural resources or developed industries, many planets became the manufacturing ground of slaves. The native on the life planets were forced to reproduce. Then, the majority of the population was sold to other parts of the universe. The profit of one slave wasn't much, but imagine how many people there were on a few hundred or thousands of planets. The profit was insane. Some races were more popular in the universe. They were well liked by noble families and powerful factions. Some powerful slaves required a large number of resources to groom. These slaves were expensive and rare. For instance, Cosmos stage slaves were a rarity in the slave market. They were hard to manage and required a lot of resources. It would also hurt the pride of other Cosmos stage martial warriors, so they couldn't be mass-produced. The slave market was situated in the suburbs of Great Chen City. It wasn't in the city center because it took up a large area, approximately 200 kilometers in radius. This was the size of a city on Earth. Yet, here, it was just a small part of Great Chen City. The slave market was like a large shopping mall on Earth. The scale of things in Great Chen City was amazing. The journey from the city center took 1 hour. The instant they stepped into the slave market, a manager came forward to welcome them. The manager had good eyesight. He could tell that An Lan was powerful, but Wang Teng was the one making the decisions. Hence, he spoke to him directly with much enthusiasm. Hello, how can I help you? Let's look at female slaves. Wang Teng followed Round Ball's guidance and spoke confidently without any fear. The manager thought that Wang Teng was a member of some noble family because of his aura and presence. He treated him with even more respect. Please follow me. He bowed and led the way in front. The manager was an alien with green skin. He had 2 tentacles on his head, looking a little like the Namekian in Wang Teng's memory. However, this alien was rounder and seemed a bit more perverted. The manager brought Wang Teng and An Lan to a plaza. This plaza was split into different zones. There were beautiful young ladies lined up in an orderly manner in each zone. Oh wait, there were women and older ladies too. After all, every customer had a different taste. The slave market was user-friendly. Whatever needs the customer had, they could be satisfied here. Of course, besides different age groups, there were different races and different styles. For instance, there was the fox race, the rabbit race, the shell men. It was said that the shell men and shell women were amazing. Some of these ladies were elegant, some were sweet, cool, seductive, pure, cute. You could find all kinds of ladies here. Wang Teng was dazzled. His eyes were wide open and his lips felt a little wet. He looked right and left. The manager was staring at the ground. He probably didn't see him. If you find any errors, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know so we can fix it as soon as possible. Tip: you can use left, right, A and D keyboard keys to browse between chapters. Chapter 1048. And Lan was even more shameless. His eyes were almost glued to the female demons, and he couldn't pull himself out. Wang Teng felt that his willpower was really firm. Even a heaven-stage martial warrior was inferior to him. Cough. Wang Teng cleared his throat. And Lan returned to his senses and smiled sheepishly. Introduce them, Wang Teng said to the manager. Yes. The manager presented himself appropriately and revealed a professional smile. He then began the introduction. This is a shell woman. They are naturally beautiful and not one of them is ugly. Please look at their skin. Isn't it white and tender? And it's not just that. The manager then revealed an ambiguous smile. He leaned in and whispered, you will know when you try it. They are really great and smooth. And Lan's eyes lit up immediately and drool seemed to drip down from the corner of his mouth. Am I that kind of person? Wang Teng asked calmly. No, of course not. I'm just explaining their good points objectively, the manager replied. You introduced them well. Wang Teng nodded. This guy has no good intentions, Roundball said in Wang Teng's mind. The Shellman race is one of the most expensive races. Oh, is it so expensive? Wang Teng asked. It won't count as anything to you, Roundball answered. How much for the Shellman race? Wang Teng was curious and asked the manager. The manager's eyes lit up. He could already tell that the young man in front of him wasn't lacking in money. As expected, he didn't even look at any other races and asked for the price directly. This kind of customer was his favorite. He immediately raised 2 fingers. Wang Teng frowned. Could it be that these Shellman slaves were selling for 20,000 UC or GQC? That would be a bit expensive. A 13-rank Shellman race planetary disciple costs 20 UC. If you are buying more, you can get a discount. I'll give you the best benefits, the manager said quickly. Phut. How much? Wang Teng's eyes almost popped out. Was he for real? This was a living being. She was even a 13-rank planetary disciple, not just any ordinary warrior. A 13-rank planetary disciple was equivalent to a 13-star general stage martial warrior on Earth. In other words, Dan Taixian and Yi Jisin were not even worth 20 universe coins. Wang Teng suddenly wanted to take a moment of silence for them. He initially thought that one would set him back 20,000 UC. Who knew it was only 20 UC? 20 UC and you can have your pick, 20 UC and you can get what you deserve. Wang Teng's mind was filled with an infinite loop of slogans that he had heard before. This is already a very low price. Our rates are absolutely fair. The manager thought that Wang Teng felt that it was too expensive. He was flustered and quickly explained. All right. Is the whole Shellman race here? Wang Teng asked. He knew that the manager had misunderstood him, but he couldn't be bothered to explain. We still have a lot of them in our inventory. The manager didn't know what Wang Teng was thinking and could only answer honestly. I want the most beautiful ones, Wang Teng said. They would be more expensive. Each will cost at least 1,000 UC. No problem, I'll have someone bring them over. The manager's eyes lit up. After a while, an employee brought a group of members from the Shellman race. In terms of appearances, they were among the best and were much better than the ones outside. Although there was no such thing as ugliness in the Shellman race, there was still a clear difference. The ones that were just brought out were the cream of the crop. It was pricey for a reason. Wang Teng nodded with satisfaction and started picking them. This one, that one. The manager smiled brightly. This customer just picked 24 of them in a short while. It looked like he had great luck today and would be fetching a nice commission. Wang Teng picked 25 shell women and said, pack them for me and show me the other races. I only want the expensive ones, not the cheap ones. Now that he had wealth, he spoke louder than others. He was told that a shell woman cost 1,000 UC and was considered very expensive. The other races wouldn't be like that. It was an excellent time to buy them now. Okay. The manager was overjoyed. Just as he was about to bring Wang Ting to another section, he remembered something and said flatteringly, Sir, our slave market just received a batch of slaves from the floral fairy race. There are only 10 of them, and they have not yet been sold. I wonder if you are interested. Floral fairy race? Wang Tung raised an eyebrow. He didn't know what they were and asked Round Ball in his mind. The floral fairy race. Round Ball was surprised. It's an extremely rare race. Their ability to reproduce is poor, so their population is naturally low. They can only be bred on some planets that are full of life. The slave market actually managed to get them. Are they just rare? Wang Teng was a bit disappointed. He wasn't a superficial person. He wasn't just focused on their appearance but also on their usefulness. Of course not. The floral fairy race has a special ability. They are naturally compatible with various spiritual objects and are very adept at growing spiritual herbs. They can even use their abilities to speed up the growth of the spiritual herbs, Round Ball said. Not only that, but their members are also beautiful. They have such an ability. Wang Ting's eyes lit up, and he said to the manager, "Bring me to them. As long as I'm satisfied, money is not an issue." "Okay, please follow me." The manager nodded again and again, expressing his fancy for a wealthy customer like him. He immediately brought Wang Ting to a place that looked like a garden. Just by this, he could tell that the floral fairy race was not comparable to those slaves outside. Their treatment was entirely different. The floral fairy race is a bit special. They are very delicate and must live in places full of life. Otherwise, their lives would be in danger, the manager explained. Wang Ting nodded in enlightenment. "Look, they are over there." The manager pointed at a small wooden house ahead. After walking into the garden, Wang Ting saw a small wooden house. He then walked toward it under the manager's guidance. The manager took out a bunch of keys and opened the door. As soon as he entered, a few girls who looked like quails curled up in the corner and looked at them with a terrified gaze. These girls were dressed in revealing clothes. Their dresses seemed like they were woven with leaves. There were petal-like marks between their eyebrows, and they looked unreal. Wang Tung suddenly felt like he was a devil king and that these 10 floral fairies were little princesses who had landed in his evil clutches. The legendary Devil King and 10 little princesses. Did you catch these floral fairies from somewhere? Wang Teng questioned. "Sir, slave traders like us do not catch slaves. We only buy and sell." The manager snickered. "How much?" Wang Teng got straight to the point. "1 floral fairy for 10,000 UC. 10,000 UC. Wang Teng frowned. It wasn't because he couldn't afford it. The difference was too huge. The most expensive shellwoman started from 1,000 UC, yet these floral fairies cost 10,000 UC each. "Sir, the floral fairies are a bit more expensive, but they are quite handy. If you could get them to the planetary or celestial stage, they could fetch at least hundreds of millions of UC. The manager pointed out. "If I hadn't seen how generous you are, I wouldn't recommend them to you. Wang Ting, you can buy them. 10,000 UC isn't considered expensive. You can nurture these floral fairies and their value will rise in the future," Round Ball said. Wang Ting nodded. "I'll have all 10 of them." "Okay." The manager was ecstatic. He initially thought that Wang Ting was going to think about it for a long time. He didn't expect him to make a decision so quickly. He met a really distinguished customer today. The fairies seemed frightened after learning that this human young man had bought them. They shrunk together in fear. It was enough to make one feel guilty. However, Wang Teng didn't say anything to them. There was more than enough time for him to nurture them. If you find any errors, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know so we can fix it as soon as possible. Chapter 1049. Cosmos Stage Slaves. Wang Teng had his reason for buying 10 floral fairies. He wasn't just interested in their beauty. The main reason was their usefulness. He needed these floral fairies to grow spiritual herbs for him. After coming out from Flaming River World, he decided to develop his space fragment. He was still a distance away from the universe stage, so he couldn't use the power of origin to transform his space fragment. However, he could use some other methods to reconstruct it. It was a pity that this huge space was only used to store items. He must make proper use of it. At first, He didn't know how he should transform his space fragment, but after seeing these floral fairies, he had a clearer plan. Some ideas popped into his mind. Wang Teng was excited. He would put his idea to action the moment he went back. Wang Teng spent 1 million UC on these floral fairies. The manager of the slave market got even more enthusiastic. This person has money and is willing to spend it. He's my master. After that, Wang Teng bought more slaves, especially those with special abilities. For instance, there were butler-style slaves, servant-style slaves, slaves good with finances, slaves who knew how to pilot a universe spacecraft. All of them had undergone professional training and weren't just ordinary slaves. Of course, their prices were higher. Wang Teng didn't mind. It didn't cost him much anyway. He spent less than 2 million UC to buy these slaves. This was a humiliation to his spending power. Let's look at guards now. I don't want planetary stage ones. Please take me to the celestial stage slaves, Wang Teng said. Then, he thought of something and added, it'll be better if they come from powerful clans or races. No problem. The manager didn't doubt Wang Teng's pockets. When he heard that Wang Teng wanted to buy guards, he was overjoyed. He hurriedly led him to another zone. It's good to have money, Lan said enviously. With your status, you shouldn't have any problems buying slaves, right? Wang Teng asked. I don't dare to spend like you. Many of my men rely on me for survival. Lan shook his head. Wang Teng nodded. He pondered for a moment and kept quiet. At this moment, the manager stopped. Wang Teng raised his head. He saw many figures with powerful auras standing in the plaza in front of him. All of them gave off a strong presence, displaying their strength to the public. Wang Teng scanned the slaves and knew all the abilities of these martial warriors. Most of them were at the 3rd and 4th levels of the celestial stage. There were around 30 people at the 6th and 7th levels. As for the 8th and the 9th levels, there were about 17 of them. But it was astonishing. On Earth, planetary stage martial warriors were a powerful presence, much less celestial stage martial warriors. Yet here, celestial stage martial warriors were slaves. Wang Teng shook his head. Mister, these slaves are from planet Taco. Their abilities are above average when compared with martial warriors of the same rank, the manager introduced. I want slaves with good talent, Wang Teng stated his requirements. He knew that this was the trick used by the managers in the slave market. If he didn't say anything, the people in the slave market wouldn't bring out their best goods. The ones outside were all the normal ones. No problem. The manager nodded after a moment of hesitation. He was confident in Wang Teng's purchasing ability. The price of celestial stage slaves was many times more than planetary disciples, much less slaves with good talent. However, he felt that Wang Teng could afford them. Wang Teng gave him this confidence. After a few minutes, someone brought another bunch of planet Taco natives. It was easy to tell that these people had greater talent. They had different attitudes. The aura of a normal person and a talent was different. Wang Teng knew that the manager wasn't tricking him. These planet Taco natives have emperor level or above talents, the manager said. Good. The price of a planet Taco martial warrior at the 3rd level celestial stage is 120,000 UC. For the 4th level celestial stage, it will be 150,000 UC, and for the 9th level celestial stage, it will be 300,000 UC, the manager listed the price. The 9th level celestial stage martial warrior was worth 300,000 UC. Honestly, Wang Teng felt that the price wasn't high. This was a 9th level celestial stage martial warrior. How could he be sold for only 300,000 UC? This was unbelievable. Give me 50 slaves from planet Taco, 30 at the 4th level celestial stage, 10 at the 7th level, and 10 at the 9th level. Wang Teng nodded. These would only cost 10 million. Yes, only. Wang Teng felt that they were extremely cheap. He bought 50 celestial stage slaves with 10 million. It was a worthy deal. Of course, only Wang Teng dared to throw money like this. Normal martial warriors wouldn't have the wealth. They spent all their money buying resources for themselves. It was better to raise their abilities than to buy slaves. A Cosmos Stage martial warrior could wipe out these 50 Celestial Stage martial warriors. Buying slaves was a waste of money. To Cosmos Stage martial warriors, Celestial Stage martial warriors were useless. Only a wealthy fellow like Wang Ting would be willing to spend so much money to buy slaves. Of course, some large and powerful families required slaves too. After all, one couldn't appear too poor. Slaves were needed to protect the younger generations in the family too. Let's look at others, Wang Ting said. All right, please follow me, the manager replied quickly in a fawning tone. This customer was decisive, so much so that he wanted to kneel down and bootlick him. Such customers were rare. He must attend to him properly. Wang Ting bought 250 more Celestial Stage martial warriors and had a total of 300 Celestial Stage slaves now. He spent less than 40 million UC. Do you have Cosmos Stage martial warriors? Wang Ting toured the area after buying all the Celestial Stage martial warriors. After some hesitation, he asked the manager this question. Cosmos Stage martial warrior. The manager felt his heart pounding. This customer was daring. Was he planning to buy Cosmos Stage martial warriors too? Being wealthy wasn't enough to describe him. Mr. A Cosmos Stage martial warrior cost at least a few hundred million, the manager reminded him softly. Do you think I can't afford it? Wang Ting stared at him intently. Of course not. You can definitely afford it. Let me bring you over. The manager shuddered when he saw Wang Ting's gaze. His instincts told him that he must believe this customer. If not, he would regret it. Cosmos Stage slaves were the highest level of slaves here. They weren't placed outside and were locked in special areas instead. The manager brought Wang Ting to a building that looked like a wrestling ring. Wang Ting saw the Cosmos Stage slaves here. Boom. 2 Cosmos Stage slaves were fighting in the arena. Explosions rang in the air. What is this? Wang Ting exclaimed in surprise. Chapter 1050. Wang Ting was shocked because the scene was out of his expectations. These 2 Cosmos Stage martial warriors were battling in the arena. The force explosions resounded in the air, the impact waves sweeping through the building. One was a martial warrior with 3 eyes from the 3 Eyes race. The other had green hair and was a beautiful female martial warrior. She was a divine spirit master to boot. She was controlling a spiritual weapon and used it to fight with the 3-eyed Cosmos Stage martial warrior. Wang Ting could tell that these 2 Cosmos Stage martial warriors were both powerful. Also, he guessed that they were slaves. There were people observing this battle at the top. They had other managers attending to them, who seemed to be explaining to the various customers. The manager smiled when he saw Wang Ting's surprised expression. They are the Cosmos Stage slaves. They are fighting so that the buyers can gauge their strength properly. Isn't this a little too much? Wang Ting asked. Honestly, he was surprised. The slave market treated Cosmos Stage martial warriors as goods. This battle was just a way of displaying their strength. He wasn't speaking up for these slaves. He just felt that it was inappropriate. After all, they were Cosmos Stage martial warriors. Mister, they're just slaves, the manager smiled indifferently. Wang Ting shook his head. He was thinking too much. Just like what the other party said, they were just slaves. No matter how powerful they were, their status couldn't be changed. He asked, where did these slaves come from? The Celestial Stage slaves couldn't be compared to the Cosmos Stage slaves. The Celestial Stage martial warriors could be mass-produced, but Cosmos Stage martial warriors weren't so easy to groom. Besides needing a large number of resources, one also required a certain level of talent and opportunities. All 3 were equally important. Don't worry. There's no issue with their backgrounds, the manager said. Wang Ting believed him. The slave market had been around for a long time and maintained a good reputation. They were doing the most brutal business, but their reputation was not bad. Are they here to buy slaves too? Wang Ting turned to one side and asked. Yes, the other party must have laid his eyes on these 2 slaves and is testing their ability now, the manager replied with a smile. Your service is thorough, Wang Ting said. Our main principle is to satisfy our customers. After all, our customers are our gods, the manager said. It was a common phrase used in the universe. How much is the price of the divine spirit master? Wang Teng asked with interest. He was getting more and more curious about the slave market. He didn't expect there to be a divine spirit master for sale. Also, she was at the cosmos stage. That one is more expensive. She's 25 billion, the manager replied. 25 billion. Wang Teng was stunned. Truthfully, this price was unexpected. The manager did tell him that cosmos stage martial warriors cost a few billion, but he didn't expect this divine spirit master to be priced this high. This wasn't just a few billion. It was much more than that. Divine spirit masters are rare. Look at her beauty. It's rare to find anyone with her looks and strength in the universe. The manager gave an ambiguous smile as he explained in a soft voice. Wang Ting understood instantly. This was a divine spirit master and a beauty. Who wouldn't like her? Even he was a little moved. The battle below came to an end. The three-eyed martial warrior wasn't weak, but he wasn't the divine spirit master's match. Soon, he was put at a disadvantage and got thrown back after making a mistake. He slammed onto the ground heavily, but the injury wasn't life-threatening. Both parties were just displaying their strength. The divine spirit master wouldn't kill her opponent. The divine spirit master is not bad, Lan commented. His gaze turned sharp. Of course, this divine spirit master is a top-tier slave in this batch, the manager said. It's a pity that someone is buying her. Wang Ting shook his head. The manager raised his eyebrows. This customer didn't even bat an eyelid when he heard the price of this slave. He even seemed interested in her. Mister, do you want to buy her? Yes. However, someone else seems to have bought her already. Maybe not. The manager gave a mysterious smile and said, wait for me. Oh. Wang Ting blinked in surprise. He nodded. The manager walked to the side and operated on his wristwatch. He seemed to be contacting someone. After some time, he turned and spoke to Wang Ting. Mister, let me bring you over to take a look. Wang Ting glanced at him in astonishment. He nodded and followed the manager. They arrived at a staircase, which led all the way underground. It felt a little eerie and sinister. Follow me. The manager walked down the stairs. If you find any errors, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know so we can fix it as soon as possible. Tip: you can use left, right, A and D keyboard keys to browse between chapters. Chapter 1051. After some time, they climbed down the stairs and arrived at a large underground space. There were many rooms here, all of them sealed. No one could see what was inside. However, what astounded Wang Teng was, these rooms were made of special materials, which were used to make a cosmos-level spacecraft at least. They were extremely sturdy. Even cosmos-stage martial warriors wouldn't be able to destroy them. The manager brought Wang Ting and Lan outside a room. After opening the door, Wang Ting saw the female divine spirit master inside. She was in the arena earlier. What's going on? Wang Ting asked curiously. The customer does have the intention of buying her, but he doesn't have enough money. After hesitating for some time, he decided against buying her, the manager explained. Ah, he has no money. Wang Ting understood. The manager smiled gently. He felt a hint of contempt in Wang Ting's voice. This was a wealthy person looking down on a poor fellow. That was good. It meant that this mister did have a lot of money. He might really be able to buy this cosmos stage divine spirit master. At that time, he would be able to get a huge commission. However, I have to remind you of one thing. The other customer likes this divine spirit master, so he might come back and buy her later. If you want her, you might have a conflict with that customer. The slave market will not be responsible for any conflicts after the purchase. Of course, we will not reveal any of your personal information either, the manager said. Wang Ting squinted. The slave market was good at conducting business. They introduced the slave to him and reminded him that he might have a conflict with the other customer. That way, they could pull themselves out of the picture entirely. They sold him the slave and a favor. They got all the benefits. Of course, this couldn't be helped. He could choose not to buy, and he wouldn't need to face the trouble. The slave market didn't force him to buy this slave either. Both sides traded willingly. Where's the other party from? Wang Teng asked. We're not sure. However, he's a heaven stage martial warrior, the manager replied with a smile. If you're not satisfied, we can look at other slaves. There are some cosmos stage slaves as powerful as this divine spirit master, the manager said. I'll buy her, Wang Teng replied. Alright, let's look at other. Wait, you're going to buy her? The manager was stunned. He took some time to react. That's right, I'll buy this divine spirit master, Wang Teng repeated. At this moment, the female divine spirit master, who was sitting cross-legged on the ground with her eyes closed, opened her eyes and looked at Wang Ting with a frown. To her, Wang Ting was just a planetary stage martial warrior. Hence, he must be from some powerful family and was most likely a frivolous young man. He probably took notice of her because of her looks. She sighed uncontrollably. She had already lost her freedom after she fell into the hands of the slave merchant. It was useless thinking of all these. Her future couldn't be changed. Wang Ting saw the lady's eyes. She had a pair of green pupils. They were crystal clear and shimmered brightly like emeralds. However, her gaze was a little numb and dim. At the same time, Wang Ting noticed a trait of this divine spirit master that proved that she wasn't a human. She was a fairy. He could faintly see a pair of sharp and pointy ears hidden beneath her green hair. No wonder her beauty was exceptional. The members of fairy race were handsome and beautiful. All their appearances were outstanding. Wang Ting was a fan of looks. This kind of slave suited his taste. The manager took a deep breath and asked again, Do you really want to buy her? Let's take a look at other cosmos stage slaves. I want the best ones. Wang Ting changed the topic instead of replying to him. But the manager understood his intentions. Not only did he want to buy this divine spirit master, but he also wanted to buy other cosmos stage slaves. At the start, the manager was happy enough if Wang Ting bought some celestial stage martial warriors. But he didn't expect him to buy cosmos stage slaves without any hesitation. He must be insanely wealthy. Alright, come with me. The manager suppressed the excitement in his heart and led Wang Ting further down the corridor. The deeper they went, the stronger the slaves. At the same time, he did some operations, and the female divine spirit master was marked as sold. That way, no one could buy her again. Mister, you're extremely lucky. You managed to buy floral fairies and a beautiful divine spirit master with an extraordinary aura as your slaves. The manager buttered up Wang Ting. I won't give you any tip even if you flatter me, Wang Teng replied nonchalantly. Haha, that was a good joke. The manager laughed in embarrassment. He felt that this customer's thoughts were very unique. He couldn't catch up with him. Was money an issue to him? He just wanted to flatter him and make him happy so that he would buy more slaves. However, we do have an exceptionally special cosmos stage slave today. The manager turned serious and said. Oh, how special? Wang Teng asked. It's a cosmos stage martial warrior from the Shadow Assassin clan. If you find any errors, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know so we can fix it as soon as possible. Tip: you can use left, right, A and D keyboard keys to browse between chapters. Chapter 1052, Shadow Assassin Clan. 3. The Shadow Assassin Clan. And Lan exclaimed. What? The Shadow Assassin Clan? Round Ball shouted abruptly in Wang Ting's mind too. Is the Shadow Assassin Clan that special? Wang Ting asked in his mind when he saw An Lan and Round Ball's reaction. He frowned slightly. Of course. The Shadow Assassin Clan is among the top 20 most powerful races in the universe. They possess space talent since birth and can travel through space. They're natural assassins. If they mature properly, they will be their enemy's nightmare, Round Ball said. That's powerful. Wang Ting raised his eyebrows. A glint flashed in his eyes as he gave a look of astonishment. Wait, did you say they possess space talent? That's right, they have space talent. The people in this race are born with space talent. That's amazing. Didn't you say that space talent is rare? Why does their entire race have space talent? Wang Ting was dumbfounded. This didn't make sense. Was this race a bug? Well, they're a favored race of God. However, there's only a few of them. Round Ball sounded a little excited. There are a few other similar races. They're special, and it's hard to meet them. That means that we must buy him. Wang Ting took a deep breath. Definitely. You'll get struck by lightning if you don't buy him, Round Ball replied quickly. But the Shadow Assassin clan is powerful. Will it be all right to buy a slave from this race? Wang Ting hesitated. You can't avoid the baggage that comes with it, Round Ball replied. That's a little troublesome. Wang Ting touched his chin. There's no other way. The slave market doesn't care about this. Round Ball felt a little helpless. Actually, if you don't tell anyone that you have a shadow assassin as a slave and treat him as your follower instead, it won't be a huge problem. You're right. Wang Ting was stunned for a moment. It was changing the concept. But this was a good method too. After all, followers sounded better than slaves. Some powerful talents had followers from various races. This was normal in the universe. If the shadow assassin slave was loyal to him, he didn't mind turning him into a follower. Wang Teng, the shadow assassin clan, is a special entity. They possess space talent. And Lan was afraid that Wang Teng didn't know, so he explained through voice transmission. I know, Wang Teng replied. Do you want to buy him? If the other members of the shadow assassin clan knew that you bought one of their kind as your slave, they won't let you go, and Lan said. I still want to buy him, Wang Ting said with a sharp gaze. All right, you can make the decision. I know that you aren't afraid of trouble, and Lan said with a bitter smile. Ha ha ha, let's just take whatever that comes. Wang Ting laughed. The manager knew what Wang Ting was thinking from his expression. They couldn't help in this matter. The customer had to resolve it themselves. If the customer had the confidence to deal with the trouble, it wouldn't be a problem. Soon, they arrived at the last door. The manager opened it. This was the first time Wang Ting saw a shadow assassin. The person inside was wearing a black gown and sitting cross-legged in a dark corner. It was as if he didn't exist. However, there were runes carved in this room to prevent the shadow assassin from escaping through space. His face was also hidden behind the hood. Wang Ting couldn't see his appearance. He was like a ball of shadow. Fortunately, Wang Teng's shadow talent was stronger than his, so he could see through his state at once. This was a way of using space. Wang Teng could replicate what this shadow assassin was doing if he wanted to. I'll buy him. How much? Wang Teng made his decision and turned to ask the manager. Well, if you want to buy him. The manager hesitated for a second. The members of the shadow assassin clan are hard to find. We spent a lot of effort to capture one, so the price, spill it already, Wang Ting interrupted him in a calm tone. He had money. He could be confident. The manager was shocked by Wang Teng's generosity again. He hurriedly said, 100 billion. 100 billion. Wang Teng was staggered. This slave was a little expensive. Chapter 1053, Organizing the Slaves, Prepare for Banquet. 1. The shadow assassin's price was a little high. It was 100 billion. Wang Teng was caught off guard. He knew that the shadow assassin might be more expensive than other Cosmos stage martial warriors, but he didn't think it would be this high. Although he was surprised, he didn't express it on his face. 100 billion was not little, but he could afford it. Before he received the inheritance from the Flaming River martial warrior, he might have had second thoughts, but now, he didn't need to think too much. Mind you, he had a huge amount of wealth. 100 billion was just a small portion of it. It wasn't much. Actually, he didn't need to touch that money. The money he won from Andre through rock gambling was enough to pay it off. It wasn't a waste to spend it on a shadow assassin. He didn't feel any mental pressure. Bring me to the counter, Wang Ting said. The manager was overjoyed. He thought that the customer would hesitate for some time or beat a retreat after hearing the price of the shadow assassin. After all, not everyone could take out 100 billion. However, Wang Teng only considered it for a minute before he decided to buy the slave. Who was this young man? If he was so wealthy, he must be a descendant of some noble family, right? Many thoughts went through the manager's mind as he guessed Wang Teng's identity. This guy was his god of fortune. Before paying, Wang Teng asked the manager if there were other special or highly talented Cosmostage marital warriors. There weren't any, so he didn't continue shopping. It was a waste to buy slaves with limited talent. They would be useless after they matured. He wanted slaves that could grow together with him. Wang Teng arrived at the administrative building with the manager and cleared his bill there. A transaction of more than 120 billion was definitely a huge sum. The entire market was alerted. Many people stared at the manager enviously. There were many managers in the slave market. All of them made money through commissions. Wang Teng's manager definitely earned a huge sum from his purchase. How could they not be jealous? Wang Teng was treated like a VIP in the administrative building. A bunch of people attended to him, making sure that he was taken care of in all areas. The manager personally attended to all the procedures and processed all the payments, transferring the slaves under Wang Teng's name one by one. Then, he walked over with a document. "Mister, you can transfer the money to our slave market account," the manager said. Wang Teng glanced at the document and asked Round Ball to scan it. After confirming that everything was fine, he transferred the money without any hesitation. The manager's eyes lit up when he saw this scene. It was a success. The transaction was finally completed. Suppressing his happiness, his attitude became even more respectful. He passed something that resembled a Rubik's Cube to Wang Teng and explained it to him. "We have implanted a biochip in the brains of all the slaves. This is the central control device for the biochips. You can control them with this. Please keep it safe." Wang Teng sized up the control device and weighed it in his hand. At the same time, he listened to Round Ball's introduction in his mind. There are many other uses for the biochip. You can use it to control martial warriors at the Cosmos stage and below. However, you won't be able to control those at the Heaven stage and above. Thus, Heaven stage slaves were almost non-existent. Almost. Wang Teng noticed this word. As long as you're powerful enough, there will be methods you can use to control Heaven stage martial warriors. Wang Teng nodded and kept quiet. "Mister, the slaves are ready. Do you need me to send them somewhere?" the manager asked warmly. "This address." Wang Teng didn't mind letting the manager settle more matters for him. He told him the address of the Nangong residence and asked him to send the slaves there. There were a few hundred people, so it would be troublesome to deal with them himself. "It looks like I need to buy a few Rune energy flying cars," Wang Teng thought to himself. "Okay." The manager nodded. He checked the address and realized that this was a baron's residence. He was surprised. Was this guest a descendant of a baron? But it was astonishing that a baron's descendant could fork out so much money. After all, he didn't belong to a noble family. Was he wasting his family's fortune? The manager wondered uncontrollably. He sent Wang Ting to the door and said, "If there are other special slaves in the future, I'll contact you immediately." "Okay." Wang Ting gave a nod. This manager was a good salesman. He knew that he was interested in special slaves, so he took notice for him. Although he was doing it to earn more money, it coincided with his needs too. After Wang Teng left, the manager returned to the administrative building. He raised his chin proudly. "Did that customer buy the female divine spirit master?" A manager leaned over and asked. If Wang Teng was here, he would recognize that this was the manager in the arena who was introducing the divine spirit master to another guest. "Yes." The manager who attended to Wang Ting gave a reserved smile. He was pleased with himself. Chapter 1054, Organizing the Slaves, Prepare for Banquet. 2. You're so lucky. The customer bought many slaves, the manager said enviously. Of course. The guest is a descendant of a baron, the manager who attended to Wang Ting said. A baron's descendant. The others were shocked and started discussing among themselves. I didn't know that a baron's descendant was so wealthy. This is the first one I have seen after so many years. Yes, most of the nobles who came to buy slaves were poor. They weren't as generous as this young man. I wonder whose descendant is he? Look at this address. Heh. It's Baron Nangong. He has no descendants. He's the new baron. It's him. Wang Teng didn't know that the people in the slave market were talking about him and had guessed his identity. Well, even if he knew, he wouldn't mind. Since he was a baron of the Great Qian Empire, he couldn't prevent such things from happening. There weren't many people in Great Qian City who didn't know him. By the time he reached the Nangong residence, the slaves had already arrived. He had to admit that the slave market was very efficient. He couldn't find any fault in their service. Mister, your slaves are here. Please verify them. The person in charge of transporting the slaves walked over. A martial warrior had a powerful memory. Wang Teng only needed to take one look to tally all the slaves. The person in charge of transporting the slaves completed the handover and left. The slaves sized up their future home. The majority of them seemed surprised and curious. They weren't nervous. Only the 10 floral fairies appeared a little agitated, as if they hadn't gotten used to their slave identity. They were probably captured illegally. However, Wang Teng didn't care. Since he had bought them, they were his slaves. There was no problem with the procedure. No one could find any loopholes in it. Would the floral fairy race come to find him? Wang Teng wasn't worried. The floral fairy race might be special, but they weren't powerful. It wouldn't be a threat to him. In the garden, Wang Teng took a chair and sat in front of the slaves. He glanced at them, nodding in satisfaction. Not bad. Wang Teng observed his slaves. Some had powerful auras while others were young and beautiful. It was worth the price. The slaves were split into 2 groups. One group consisted of all the celestial stage martial warriors and above. Wang Teng intended to use them as guards. The other was the female slaves. All of them were beautiful and charming, and they came from different races. The scene was a feast for the eye. Wang Teng's gaze landed on one of them. This was a pretty woman around 30 years old with a good figure and a refined and gentle aura. She was the butler Wang Teng chose. Master. The woman stepped out and smiled as she bowed. What's your name? Master, my name is Annie. Okay, I just moved into this residence. You'll be the butler from now on. I'll transfer a sum of money to you. See what we lack and buy them. Arrange what you feel needs to be done. You will be in charge of these female servants, Wang Teng said casually. Annie was stunned. She felt that her master was throwing all the work at her so that he wouldn't need to do anything. Yes. However, she maintained her professionalism and bowed as she accepted the order. Her attitude was respectful. I'll get a wristwatch and a new bank card for you to use, Wang Teng said. Yes, Master SSO. I'm hosting a banquet for all the nobles in Great Qian City. You're in charge of it. A banquet for the nobles. Annie was shocked. What status did her master have? Why did he need to hold a banquet for the nobles in the city? I need it organized to the highest standard. Don't ruin our reputation. Wang Teng looked at her intently and continued. Yes, master. Annie replied hurriedly, feeling a little nervous. Wang Teng looked at the other side and asked the female divine spirit master, "What's your name?" Bertha, the divine spirit master replied coldly. "What about you?" Wang Teng turned to look at the shadow assassin. "Hardy." A hoarse voice appeared behind the black cape after a few seconds. Wang Teng shook his head. He felt that it wouldn't be easy to order these 2 slaves around. His expression turned stern as he said, "I don't care what your identity was in the past. You're my slave now. I hope you can accept this fact. I'm too lazy to care about your thoughts. Follow my orders. If anyone dares to overtly agree but covertly oppose, I won't show any mercy. I can treat you like a dog. I don't care if a dog dies. I have enough money to buy a few more Cosmos stage martial warriors." Bertha's face turned pale. Humiliation flashed in her eyes. Hardy's face was covered by the black cape, so the others could only see a cape floating in the air. They couldn't see his expression, but the faint fluctuation of his force betrayed his uneasy state of mind. Annie and the other servants thought that Wang Ting was an easygoing master. Seeing his fierce side, they started shivering in fear and quickly lowered their heads and back, afraid that they would offend him. Of course, if I'm satisfied by your performance, after I reach the heaven stage, I don't mind removing your biochip and making you all my followers, Wang Teng added. Really? Bertha raised her head and asked with an intense gaze. Hardy stared at Wang Teng too. It was easy to see his excitement through his gaze. Bertha, I'll leave these people to you. I want a well-trained team. Wang Teng didn't reply to their questions. He turned and left directly after giving his order. Bertha and Hardy stood with complex expressions. They didn't know if Wang Ting was speaking the truth. Also, they would only have a chance to become a follower after their master reached the heaven stage. The heaven stage wasn't that easy. As Cosmos stage martial warriors, they naturally understood how difficult it was to break through to the heaven stage. Their master was only at the planetary stage, a huge distance away from the heaven stage. Who knew how long it would take him to get to the heaven stage? Whether he could reach that level was a problem too. But they had no choice. They knew that this was their destiny, so it was good to have some hope. Bertha sighed softly and turned around. She started organizing the celestial stage slaves according to Wang Teng's instructions. With this bunch of slaves, the barren residence started operating like a huge machine. Annie was indeed a butler-style slave. She had undergone professional training, so she managed to put all stuff in order and organized everything properly. After settling in Lan's lodging, Wang Ting went to the study room. Round Ball appeared and observed the surroundings with a complicated expression. I'm finally back here after so many years. Wang Ting watched it quietly. He didn't disturb it. After some time, Round Ball floated in front of a bookcase and started rearranging the order of the books in a certain manner. Boom! A crack appeared in the ground, revealing a path leading down. Wang Ting was amazed. Let's go. Round Ball led the way. After some time, they arrived at the end of the stone staircase. Wang Ting realized that there was an underground space the size of a normal room below. A huge metal door stood in their way. Ignite your legacy mark and open the Nangong family's vault, Round Ball said. This is the Nangong family's treasure vault. Yes, this is what Cao Hongtu wanted. I'm curious to see what good things there are inside. Wang Ting smiled. He activated the legacy mark Nangong left behind. If you find any errors, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know so we can fix it as soon as possible. Tip: you can use left, right, A and D keyboard keys to browse between chapters. Chapter 1055, Demon, Take This Stick From Me. 1. The complicated and mysterious legacy mark between Wang Ting's eyebrows started to glow brightly. Previously, when the legacy mark appeared, there wasn't any light at all. But it was particularly glaring now. The legacy mark seemed to be pulled by some kind of force. It separated from Wang Ting's forehead and started floating in the air. On the other side, a strange mark that looked like a rune array appeared on the huge metal door. It rotated slowly. The array was missing an important core piece in its middle. The legacy mark started moving toward the core, and the round array was illuminated brightly. The legacy mark and the entire array fit perfectly. In just a short while, the two completely merged together. Boom! Suddenly, there was a rumbling sound above the door. The metal door jolted and parted in front of Wang Ting's eyes. A dusty gust of wind blew from behind the door. The treasure vault had not been opened for millions of years. In the universe, a million years might not mean much, but to an ordinary person, it was an unimaginable period of history. Fortunately, the treasure vault had a special array for cleaning that ensured no dust would stay inside. Wang Ting waited till the doors were opened completely before stepping in. Round Ball floated beside him and entered the treasure vault together. Wang Ting took a deep breath. He was dazzled by the number of items inside. There were all kinds of treasures displayed on the shelves or stored in transparent cabinets in plain view. The treasures were well preserved, and it was impossible to sense their aura. However, from their appearances, he could tell that they were extraordinary. There were all kinds of spiritual herbs, ores, star cores, and starbones. There were even weapons and battle armor. Although these things couldn't be compared to a universe-stage martial warrior's inheritance, it was still a great fortune. After all, the Nangong family was of noble origins and had a deep influence. These items were enough to groom several heaven-stage martial warriors. No wonder Cao Hongtu wanted to enter the treasure vault so badly. After all, not everyone was a bug like Wang Ting, who could obtain a universe-stage martial warrior's legacy when he was just a celestial-stage martial warrior. He was spending money without any worries or restraint. Wang Ting toured the room and realized that all these treasures were impressive. However, he had a calm expression. When Round Ball saw him like this, it rolled its eyes and wanted to criticize him for being a despicable man who was intoxicated by success. But what was with that insuppressible feeling of envy? Ah! Wang Teng's eyes lit up suddenly, and he walked towards a corner. Round Ball was surprised and followed him, wondering what he was trying to do. This is a flora crystal. Wang Ting picked up a pile of jade crystals in the corner and smiled. He initially planned to buy some crystals or treasures with a strong vitality and transform his space fragment. He didn't expect to encounter them in the treasure vault. Sure enough, a cute and handsome boy would be lucky. "What are you doing with the flora crystals?" Round Ball asked. He suddenly thought of something and exclaimed, "I know, they are for the floral fairies." "That's right." Wang Ting nodded and didn't explain much. Sooner or later, Round Ball would learn about the space fragment. Wang Ting had nothing to hide. He was just too lazy to explain it. "You just fancy them for their looks," Round Ball said with contempt. "That's not it. I want them to help me grow spiritual herbs. I'm not using them for some shameful purpose." Wang Ting snapped back. "I don't believe you." Round Ball's face was full of disdain. "It's up to you to believe me or not." He then stored the flora crystals in his space fragment. The flora crystal was a treasure with strong vitality. It could only be found in places with a strong life force. Wang Ting buried them in the ground. It was enough to change the soil quality and the vitality of the space fragment. However, he wouldn't use the flora crystals for something as simple as this. That was such a waste. Matching the flora crystals with the right rune array would maximize its effectiveness. This was something that Wang Teng excelled at. He then picked out a lot of items in the treasure vault, including sprouts and seeds of spiritual flowers and herbs. Of course, there were also various energy stones and crystals that promoted the growth of spiritual items. Since he planned to transform his space fragment, he could only do it with the use of rune arrays and various energy stones and crystals with special properties. He didn't have the power of origin to support the space fragment. In addition, there were many items in the Flaming River martial warrior's legacy that could come in handy. He didn't have to spend money to buy them. Not long after, Wang Teng came out of the treasure vault. Without the legacy mark, the doors closed, barring entry to other people. When Wang Teng left the vault, the sky was already dark. He was surprised to find that the entire residence was operating orderly, as if there was a hint of a noble's demeanor. "Master." Annie appeared in front of Wang Teng at the right time. "If you find any errors, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know so we can fix it as soon as possible. Tip: you can use left, right, A and D keyboard keys to browse between chapters. Chapter 1056, Demon, Take This Stick From Me. 2. Although everything had to be started from scratch in this barren residence, Annie accomplished her task with ease. She wasn't in any flurry. She knew how to use people and was a good leader. She didn't need to handle everything personally. She would delegate tasks to appropriate people. "You did well," Wang Ting praised her. "Thank you for your compliment." Annie's smile was beautiful. She looked like a flower blossoming in the high mountains, dazzling and enchanting. Wang Ting couldn't help but take another look. Then, he shifted his gaze away quickly. He mustn't succumb to the temptation. "Master, dinner is ready." Would you like to have it now? Annie smiled silently in her heart. Cough, all right. Wang Ting nodded without any change to his expression. Extremely calm. Wang Ting had asked Annie to hire some Force Chef Masters and Grandmasters for the Baron residence. He could satisfy his cravings, and he needed them for the banquet too. He wouldn't cook if he didn't have to. He would sit and wait for food to come to his mouth like an old man. These Force Chef Masters were happy to work in a Baron residence too. The nobles were good clients. They weren't as important as other secondary careers like alchemists and blacksmiths. Force Chef Masters didn't have such a high position. Of course, if you reached the Grandmaster level, many powerful factions and noble families would be willing to invite you into their residence. The Force dishes made by Force Chef Masters were great for martial warriors. If they consumed them every day, they would gain many benefits. The dishes would raise their abilities silently and slowly. To a martial warrior, nothing was better than this. Wang Ting had money, so he didn't mind spending it on himself. With his current status in the Secondary Career Alliance, it wouldn't be hard to hire a few Force Chef Masters. The Force Chef Grandmasters were also willing to give him face and come to serve the Baron residence. Annie got to know some of Wang Ting's network and felt newfound respect and curiosity towards her master. Her new master wasn't a normal frivolous and wealthy noble. In the dining room, the beautiful servants Wang Ting bought served the food. The dishes were amazing in smell, appearance, and taste. A strong fragrance floated in the air. You know how to enjoy yourself, and Lan walked in and said enviously. He sat down opposite Wang Ting without any qualms and lifted the cutlery to start eating. Wang Ting felt a strong sense of discord whenever he saw the mecha eating. What a waste of food. They could just drink some petrol to replenish their energy. Why did they have to waste such delicious food? Of course, Wang Ting didn't voice out his thoughts. And Lan might argue with him if he did. If you follow me, you'll be able to enjoy these naturally, Wang Ting suddenly said. This wasn't the first time he had this thought. After working with Lan for so long, he felt that this mecha heaven stage martial warrior was very good. He didn't have any arrogance. He was expensive because he was too powerful. You want to pull me to your side? And Lan paused momentarily and exclaimed in surprise. You can look at it that way. Wang Ting didn't deny it. Let me think about it. And Lan touched his chin. It was Wang Ting's turn to be shocked. And Lan didn't reject him immediately. It meant that he shared the idea. However, it was strange that a powerful heaven stage martial warrior like him was willing to follow a celestial stage martial warrior. And Lan didn't continue the topic, so Wang Ting didn't probe further. He would give him an answer once he thought about it carefully. After dinner, I had my fill. As expected of Force Chef Grandmasters. The taste is amazing, and Lan commented. He was about to leave, but he turned when he reached the door and said, I'll be heading back first. Call me if you need anything. Prepare yourself. After the banquet ends, I'll be returning to my planet, Wang Ting said. He was worried about Earth, but he couldn't leave because he hadn't settled the things here. Fortunately, he would only need 1 to 2 days. It wouldn't take up too much time. Your planet. And Lan was stunned for a second. Oh. Yes. I'm worried that Cao Hongtu will attack it. Okay. And Lan nodded. Wang Ting didn't have any other things to say, so he turned and left. Wang Ting sat on the chair and pondered for some time. Many thoughts went through his mind. Suddenly, he said, Annie, Hardy will be here later. Bring him over. Okay. Annie turned around and went out. After some time, she brought Hardy back. I have a mission for you. What is it? Hardy asked in a hoarse voice. Take 50 celestial stage martial warriors with you and head to this planet using a universe spacecraft. Wang Ting sent him the location of Earth. He had already prepared wristwatches for several important slaves. Sending a star chart over was simple. What do I have to do after I reach the planet? Your main task is to protect these people. Wang Ting sent the photos of his family members, Lin Chuhan, Dan Taixian, and a few others to Hardy's wristwatch. Make sure no one harms them. This is the most important task. Next, Protect the planet and kill any invaders. I understand. Hardy nodded. Don't reveal yourself. Go. Wang Ting waved his hand. Yes. Hardy bowed and went off. Wang Ting felt that his opening gambit had its effect. One mustn't give in to powerful slaves like Hardy, or they might climb onto his head. He felt a little more at ease after sending Hardy. With Hardy's shadow assassin talent, he would be a top-tier Cosmos stage martial warrior. It should be enough to deal with the Olent Federation's side. Wang Teng would arrive with and land soon after, so it shouldn't be a problem. Master, do you want to have a bath? Annie asked only after Wang Teng finished giving his orders. A bath? Wang Teng was stunned. Many embarrassing scenes suddenly appeared in his mind. Are you going to help me? Of course, Annie gave a mesmerizing smile. Cough, I don't mind having a soak. I do want to see your scrubbing back technique. Wang Teng coughed. You'll definitely be satisfied. Annie covered her mouth and laughed gently. Her gaze was seductive. Her smile made people's hearts flutter. Oh my God, demon, take a stick from me. Wang Teng cried in his heart. This was his first time experiencing such a frivolous lifestyle, so he allowed Annie to do everything. There was a hot spring in the residence. Annie had ordered people to clean it beforehand, so they could use it directly. When Wang Ting came into the hot spring, there was already steam floating. Petals were scattered on the water, giving off a slight fragrance. A few beautiful servants from the Shellman race were wearing thin shawls and waiting inside. Wang Ting wanted to know if they were really that amazing. With Annie's help, he got undressed, revealing his almost perfect golden ratio body. As he stepped into the hot spring, the servants flocked around him. Some were holding spiritual fruits while others had bathing tools. Some had wine glasses. They were all slaves with no emotions. All they had in mind was their job. Annie left for a moment. When she came back, she had already changed into a pink light dress. Her voluptuous body could be seen faintly. Wang Teng was surprised. This female demon was lethal. There was a slight tinge of redness on Annie's face as she stepped into the hot spring. She came behind Wang Teng and touched his back lightly with her finger. The soft touch made Wang Teng shudder uncontrollably. What a guilty lifestyle. A soft exclamation escaped his mouth. He was lying at the edge of the hot spring. There were slaves from the Shellman race scrubbing his back and feeding him peeled fruits. He was fully enjoying himself. Whether you believed it or not, he just took a peaceful bath. He didn't do anything else. Wang Teng swore to protect his virginity for his future partner. He used his strong willpower to resist Annie's temptation. When she left, her gaze was a little bitter. If you find any errors, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know so we can fix it as soon as possible. Tip: you can use left, right, A and D keyboard keys to browse between chapters. You're tuning in to the Celestial War YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.